Say thank you for joining for today's celebration and dedication. Vice Mayor Hodge Washington wished she could be here today to celebrate, but she's traveling on behalf of the city, so I'm honored to stand here on behalf of her as we celebrate the dedication of Martin L. Schultz Way. Mr. Schultz's lasting and meaningful impact on the city of Phoenix can be seen throughout our community, and especially here in District 8 and at the Bioscience Corps, as the mayor mentioned. Also as mentioned, his work stretched across downtown development, energy, human services, and transportation, but what stood out even more was his relationships that he cultivated, which have lasted decades. I think that's evident by everyone here today. Marty understood the value of collaboration. He brought people together to solve challenges and build opportunities. Marty has a rare ability to mentor leaders at every level, elected officials, staff, community partners, and young professionals just starting public service. Now, if I can share even a recent experience. Being new to my role as chief of staff, when I was asked to speak today, my immediate thought was that Marty was going to lean over to someone and say, "Who's this random guy that's talking at my event?" Which would have been a fair question. So in advance, I reached out to Marty to introduce myself, learn more about him, and ask as a new chief of staff for his guidance on how to be successful in the role. Marty, you were so gracious in your willingness to connect, take a few moments to talk to me over the phone, and you even offered to meet with me in the future to share more of your wisdom, which I greatly appreciate and hope to take advantage of. During a brief conversation, Marty talked about how all aspects of transportation have been so critical to the development of the city. From Sky Harbor to freeways and especially light rail, he emphasized the importance of leaders facilitating connections throughout the community. So as a light rail rider myself, I had to personally thank Marty for his visionary leadership and admire the tenacity that must have been required in order to implement and expand that system. As public servants, we often steer clear of the spotlight, but know, Marty, that you've had a profound impact on all of our lives. I see it every day riding the train with the next generation on their way to Phoenix Central High School. And it's because of you those students are reaching their education, and it's because of you that we are all more connected here today. Many of us, including the Vice Mayor, have benefited from your guidance and leadership, so naming the street in your honor is a meaningful reminder of what dedicated public service looks like. On behalf of the Vice Mayor, we are proud to join the Mayor, city leadership, the Schultz family, friends, and loved ones, as well as our community in celebrating Martin L. Schultz Way. May this serve as a reminder to those future generations of the importance of service, leadership, and giving back to your community. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Also with us today is Scarlett Spring, the Executive Director of Phoenix Bioscience Corps. Scarlett?
Thank you. Well, a theme throughout this morning has certainly been how that Marty has given his unwavering support to so many areas. And I have a few comments on behalf of the bioscience community, specifically Tammy McLeod, who can't be with us today because she is with the GPEC mission that is in Washington, D.C. But she shared with me that you all shared an office at APS and how that you had been so instrumental, particularly in those early days. So it's my honor to share some of these comments. Marty, you were a founding member of the Arizona Bioscience Roadmap Steering Committee. This is that statewide leadership group that in 2003 came together to really drive Arizona's efforts to move forward in the area of biosciences. You had already played a critical role in ensuring local and state government support just to have TGen here and to begin that. But he accepted the role of steering committee just 2 years later in 2005, and he served in that role for 10 years. And Marty, it was during this time that I actually met you. I, coming out of 19 years as a pharmaceutical executive, was thrust into economic development, which I did not know much about. But Barry Broom hired me at the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and when I attended my first meeting as on the roadmap, I immediately felt at home because it was in the biosciences is where my love was. Throughout your years of service, you've been fully committed not only to that steering committee, but to the progress of chairing it, whether it was moving to Flagstaff, whether it was in Tucson, Phoenix, and you spearheaded delegations into Washington, D.C., and answering the request for any kind of help with the promise, Marty is on it. Marty's efforts also extended in areas like autism and the SARC Signature Foundation. Like many things that you did, you started out attending that luncheon, as many of us do, moved on to table chair, and then table captain, And the MVP, which is the multi-visionary partner, pledging donations for longer than 5 years, and now it's a part of your family legacy in the foundation. He's also been a major force in community organizations in healthcare, serving a stint as the chair of the Banner Healthcare Board of Directors, and you remain very committed and interested in healthcare issues. Thank you. You have demonstrated an unmatched capacity for coalition building, political sensitivity, and strategic insight. He was the roadmap's chief advocate at the Arizona legislature and with our congressional delegation, and an articulate and grounded voice for biosciences to the media. And we so needed that voice in those days because people were unfamiliar with why biosciences, why this long-term commitment, and would it really have those outcomes. In 2009, because of this service, Marty was awarded the John McGarity Leadership Award by the Arizona Bioindustry Association for his contributions in this sector. The Flynn Foundation's nomination referenced an astonishing breadth of Marty's community and board service beyond the biosciences, and at that time, it was 33 distinct roles. His breadth fostered mutually reinforcing relationship that enabled you to enter any room, anywhere, with a contextual understanding that invited trust and that enabled him to find solutions where no one else would even begin to look. It's really special. We stand on your shoulders as we look to create this next generation in the biosciences. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. And Denise Resnick, who we saw at the Mayor's State of the City last week, wishes she could be here, but she wishes you so well. Marty and Denise were Men and Women of the Year at Valley Leadership together, so she has obviously a very special place in her heart for you. Finally today, Mo Stein, who will bring us home today. Mo is a partner emeritus at HKS Architects, immediate past board chair of Phoenix Community Alliance, the board of directors of Downtown Phoenix, most importantly, one of Marty's great friends. Mo.
Wow. Our architecture's fun. This is our building. We're really proud of it. One of the best things I ever did in my life was devoting some time to the anchor that this opportunity has here at Wexford. So thank you all. Thanks to Kyle, who's here today. And thanks to Tony for helping put this incredible event together with the mayor. It was fun to do so. There's so many stories. I was thinking about preparing for today. I said, I've got to tell some Marty stories. And then I realized there were just too many Marty stories to tell. So I tried to pick the ones that were really, really going to be important to us. But I thought about this power that Marty has to bring people together. And here we are in downtown in the core, and we're working on daily a new downtown strategic vision. And in the core of that vision is this belief that downtown has this way to bring people together that's so unique, not just in our community, but our state, our region, and across the world. And that's the message that we intend to say. And Marty was really right up there at the front of that, if you can think about it. You've heard about some of the great accomplishments that Marty and his teams at various different places he's been have done, but you know, I think about the Phoenix Community Alliance, which we're so proud of in 1983. You know, Marty got the phone call, at least I think it was a phone call, that said, we need to do this. Go get it done. I think it was just that simple. And here it was 1983, this is 2026. You can do the math. The most powerful advocacy organization for the heart of our city that we have, and because Marty took the lead and made that happen. And we can talk about bioscience, we can talk about ASU, we can talk about any number of programs in this community. But the one that really hasn't come up today is the Human Services Campus. And you know, no one, and I can say this, because I was in the, you know, Hamilton, I was in the room where it happened. You know, we wouldn't have all those things, and I can assure you, we would not have a Human Services Campus if it wasn't for what Marty did and the way he did it. And I think that's really the moral of the story, That's the big takeaways, is that kind of commitment. But I just gave you kind of the end of the story. So let me backtrack for just a second and tell you how it happened, because it was probably the most important learning opportunity that I've had, and I use it every day, and I refer to it a lot. And some of you may have heard the story, so if you have, forgive me for a minute, but when it comes to the kinds of things that we were able to accomplish, the Human Services Campus stands out because everybody knew it had to be done, and nobody really wanted to do it because it was so difficult. I mean, think about the difficulty we have to do things today. Think about the difficulty we had to raise that kind of money with that kind of issue, that kind of opportunity. It was a time when you would come into downtown Phoenix, you'd be at your office, and you would see these police cars. You remember those days? We'd see the police cars from El Mirage and Scottsdale and Mesa, and all these different cities around the valley. And we kind of figured out what the hell were police cars from all over the valley doing in downtown Phoenix. And we realized pretty quickly what it was. They were dropping their homeless off. Right? Absolute true story. And it was so obvious that we gave, at the old CAS, on there, I think on Watkins, we gave the doorman one of those disposable cameras. You take the pictures and you throw the camera away. Kind of like today. But we gave the doorman a camera and told him to take a picture of every different city he saw. And we had quite the collection. But we were able to get it done, and I can assure you it wouldn't happen without Marty. But here's what I remember about it the most. We were in a particularly tough spot, and we were struggling to figure out how do we move this along, how do we raise the money. The county, of course, and the city helped us tremendously to do that. But what was it going to take? What does it mean? How were we going to get it across? And we decided, it was me and Marty and Don Cuth, and we decided that we were going to get together on a Saturday afternoon and figure this thing out. And Marty, I think, had the great idea to get Barry on the phone, Barry Starr. And during that time, Barry was not well, he couldn't talk, but he could communicate without talking. And we went to Barry's condo there at the Biltmore, and we sat down for about an hour and a half or 2 hours and talked about the Human Services Campus and what it meant, what it was going to take, what did it mean. And during part of the conversation, I remember I turned to Marty and I said, how the hell are we going to do this? I mean, this is just getting overwhelming, and every day it's more overwhelming. And he gave me the most important lesson I learned, which was, we're going to own this damn problem. And we're going to fix it, and we're going to deliver it, and we're going to make it happen, because the only way to solve this problem is to own it. And I think that's the lesson that I would suggest we all have. It's the lesson I have. It's why I respect Marty and his family so much, is that he never found something that he didn't own, that he couldn't deliver. So thank you for that. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and to share my story.
Marty, you want to come up?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Where are you going?
We'll dance a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver some remarks today, Mr. Marty Schultz. Son of a gun. My bad.
Not a problem. So where are my notes? Well, I don't have any notes. I've got to thank everyone who spoke about the last several decades, many decades, and the projects that we all were involved in. Even though my name was mentioned on several occasions, I assure you that there are hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of individuals who were key to the development of all these projects. But I want to remember a couple of project areas and encourage you all and those who are not here but who are in the trenches to continue. Let's take transportation. We've talked about transportation today, the various projects that are ongoing. You know, when we started, we did not have an I-10 through Phoenix. We did not have a tunnel. You just drive through the tunnel today and it's like, oh, we do that. We didn't have a tunnel. It took an elected official. Madam Kate, your predecessors, like you, have made tremendous contributions. That was Margaret Hance, who actually had the guts to say to the Corps of Engineers, we can't send helium coils up in the air and divide the city. We needed to develop a transportation system and go through the city. That was the key to that. Transportation, bioscience. No kidding. We started from scratch to develop the bioscience industry. That was fabulous. The issue of human service campus and homeless. Mo described it very nicely. That was a key area. And I could go on, and if you let me, I probably would, but I want to get to the essence of what's in my heart with regard to this honor. It isn't about me, but it's about the people that I worked with. And I want to point out, first of all, elected officials. In today's discussion about electeds and about politics, we have not only the great division, we have great divisions, but it is the ones who have moved through that and who have made that kind of commitment. And they're here today, and there's others that are not here. When the City of Phoenix Council was discussing this idea of having a street naming, they got to Laura Pastor, and she thought about what she was going to say, and she thought about her dad, Ed Pastor, and the great things that he did at the local level, at the congressional level, the federal level, and at the community level. We have MAG and other associations. That's extremely important as well. Then we have the leaders in the business community and the development community. And I'm wanting to point out one individual who is here, even though there are many. But I wanted to say, as I think through the awards and the activities, that a former CEO, many CEOs, but a former CEO of Pinnacle West and Arizona Public Service Company, Bill Post, is here. And Bill, your commitment and then your involvement and your leadership over the years and now, tremendous. One thing that wasn't mentioned, other than I think Frank may have said something about energy, but if you think about it, APS, when it was started and then developed into APS before something called Pinnacle West Capital Corporation, had individuals that had the guts to build a nuclear power plant and a variety of other power sources, which is what we enjoy today. That's part of the key of the economy. As I said, I could ramble on, and I'm not going to, but I am going to thank each and every one of you and thank those that aren't here, the predecessors, because on behalf of all of us, we thank them for their commitment, for their leadership, and for their heart. Thank you all.
occupational therapist. Occupational therapy is a profession not a lot of people know about unless you or a family member or loved one has worked with an OT directly. I've been an OT for over 10 years. I currently work in the Paradise Valley Unified School District in the Learning for Independence program. So I work with students kindergarten through 22 years old with moderate to severe physical and cognitive disabilities. When I teach my OT students, I'm like, it's not a disability, it's a different ability. We have to figure out the different way that they can get this done. We are gonna have a fun day today. With the Learning for Independence program, it's a lot of hands-on life skills. So what I try to incorporate is creative job skills and job readiness skills. Today we are gonna be working as Costco employees. They will be prepping and handing out samples. They'll be working on their fine motor skills, their social interaction skills, and just overall problem solving, motor planning, what it would take to have a job after high school. It's not always about what you have, but what you give. I put a smile on these kids' face. They are motivated. They remember, oh, Miss Kelly did this really fun thing with us, and go home and tell their parents. It doesn't matter your disability, it's who you are inside that really is what's most important. Occupational therapy is such a selfless profession. I'm never doing it for me, I'm doing it for the students I work with. I'm doing it for the families that I work with, educating them, providing them the opportunities that they might not have without the education or the knowledge that I know. I'm just so thankful. I'm just so shocked that I won this award. To be recognized is such a big honor. It's such a collaborative profession that I work with teachers, I work with physical therapists, vision and hearing specialists, that all of these collaborators have one common goal of helping children succeed, that it's such an honor that I got recognized, but the individuals that I work with deserve the recognition. It just betters the lives of our future and just deserves to be recognized.
I didn't know it was a Lifetime Achievement Award. Okay, that's taking me back a little bit. Okay. I don't think anyone in the nonprofit world does this for accolades. We do it because of our mission and what we're trying to do for the community. I got involved with the Foundation for Blind Children when my son was born. Max was 3 months when his doctor said something's wrong with his eyes, and the last thing the doctor told us to do was to call the Foundation for Blind Children. We called them and they showed up on our doorstep the next day. And from that moment on, we were a part of Foundation for Blind Children. My wife and I got on the board. Once I was on the board, our CEO retired, and I looked at my wife and I said, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I sold my company and came to work here, and that was 17 years ago. We've built this into the largest Braille library in the country. We built this in the largest preschool in the country. We serve blind and visually impaired people of all ages from the day they're born to the day they leave us. Our oldest client right now is 101 years old. We are overcoming major chronic problems. We didn't have enough teachers, so we built a teachers program with ASU. We didn't have a low vision clinic, so we built a low vision clinic. We needed more classroom space, so we built a new school. Whatever the obstacle is, we will overcome it. And that's what we teach our students. Vision loss is not the end of the world. It's just a different world. The Foundation for Blind Children really gives parents that hope and give those students, those children that hope that they can do anything. And we've proven it over and over again. They do everything. We took 8 blind students to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, 19,340 feet. We set 4 world records. We had the largest blind group ever. We had the first blinded US vet to reach the top, first person with albinism to reach the top, and my son was the youngest blind climber ever to reach the top, and still is. That's my favorite part about my job. I get to tell the story over and over and over again, and it inspires people to do bigger and better things. And I love the Foundation for Blind Children. I love our students, I love our families. I truly believe that doing right for them completes me, makes me who I am. When the mayor's office recognizes you for what we do every day, it's pretty special. I know that over my lifetime I've done some special things. I've seen some kids do some special things. I've led some kids in the top of mountains, across oceans, and I didn't do it for the accolades, but I did it for the kids. But it's always nice when the mayor recognizes you.
What a wonderful day it is to be here as we welcome China Airlines with the first ever nonstop service from Taipei to Phoenix, Arizona. What a great day it is.
It was an honor to be on that inaugural flight from Taipei, Taiwan to Phoenix. It is indicative of what I know is a tremendous partnership that is really going to propel this region, the relationship between the two countries. This new route is more than just a connection between two cities. It's a bridge between two dynamic regions. The economic impact of this year-round service is expected to exceed $100 million on an annual basis. Passenger traffic between Phoenix and Taipei has surged by more than 400% since 2019, highlighting the growing demand for this connection. We are thrilled to welcome travelers from the Silicon Island to the Silicon Desert. The future is bright, and this is just the beginning.
This flight is not only about tourism, it's about forging more collaboration in our industries, in our technologies, in our exchanges in education, and in all fronts.
We truly believe in this city potential and look forward to building even stronger partnership together in here. The milestone is possible because of your dedication.
You had the confidence to make sure that this day happened, and I just want to thank you and the entire China Airlines team for allowing us to make that today possible.
Phoenix isn't just a city, it's a community, diverse, vibrant, and always moving forward. At Phoenix TV, we bring
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the May 2026 Community Services and Education Subcommittee meeting. I'd like to introduce our city attorney, David Benton. Please explain the role of public comment.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Should there be any members who comment on agenda items, members of the public may speak up to 2 minutes. To comment on agenda items to be discussed, comments may be related to the agenda item and actions being considered. Subcommittee members and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigations. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before the subcommittee in their capacity as a lobbyist is required to disclose that fact to the subcommittee members. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our interpreter, Elsie Duarte, who will provide a brief announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair Hodge-Washington. My name is Elsie Duarte, as stated, and I will be providing Spanish interpretation during today's session. I will now take a moment to address our Spanish-speaking audience. Buenos días, mi nombre es Elsie Duarte y estaré interpretándole a nuestra audiencia habla hispana durante esta sesión del Subcomité de Servicios Comunitarios y Educación. Para escuchar la reunión al español simultáneamente, favor de pasar por unos audífonos ubicados a la entrada de la sala de cámaras. Las personas que estén registradas para hacer un comentario público sepan que podrán hablar libremente sin interrupciones durante el tiempo disponible. Sus comentarios serán interpretados al momento que usted termine de hablar. Gracias. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We're going to move to item number 1. It's the approval of the CSE minutes from April 22nd, 2026. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 2 is the annual review and updates to the Neighborhood Services Department Code Enforcement Policy. This is on the consent agenda, but we do have one speaker registered, Ms. Jeannie Ann Sumner.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. My comments are regarding the code enforcement interdepartmental interagency cooperation on page 9, 8, and B. Unfortunately, we are in an endless loop of vandals, graffiti busters, paints it out. I respectfully request emphasis on stopping this property crime and not just painting it over again and again. Recently, neighbors called PD for graffiti in progress in one of our parks, and arrests were made. This was an excellent opportunity for NSD, Parks, and PD to educate the people on the importance of reporting graffiti in progress, the annual cost to paint out graffiti, and the importance of helping redirect vandals out of this gateway crime. Unfortunately, opportunity missed. Also, please consider renaming Graffiti Free Phoenix to have some action behind it, saying making Phoenix graffiti free. In addition to demonstrating the great work of graffiti busters, this is an opportunity to also inform the neighbors and businesses of the financial and human cost of graffiti and how they can help. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. I'm going to ask our Director Spencer Self to come down to the table, please. Good morning, Director. Just a real quick question. I wanted you to, if you could, spend a few, explain kind of what we do as a city in terms of education regarding graffiti and its, some of the negative impacts that we try to counteract regarding graffiti.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak on this item. And I do want to give a shout out to Ms. Jeannie M. Sumner, who runs our Graffiti Free Phoenix campaign and her own agency working to promote the problems that come with graffiti as an act of vandalism. And that's exactly what it is. When we look at the differences and the nuances between graffiti versus other types of artistic expression, murals, graffiti is an act of vandalism. It's not done with the consent of the owner of the property. So for us, we attack that in a couple of different ways. One is removing the graffiti as quickly as possible. Our graffiti busters are out there 7 days a week. They take reports online, by phone, or by email so that we can respond within 24 to 48 hours to remove graffiti on public property as well as on some private property when we have consent through a waiver. We also work to promote awareness of graffiti as a crime and as an act of vandalism. The month of February is Graffiti Free Phoenix Awareness Month. And so during that month, we have a campaign talking about graffiti and encouraging folks to call when they do see graffiti on property or in progress. Graffiti in progress is a crime and can be reported directly to the police department for action. We also work with the police department. We track graffiti tags, and so we have a database. So all of the graffiti that we remove, we collect in a database to support police if there is enforcement for restitution charges related to that crime. So just a few things we do related to graffiti.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that helpful description. I've had the pleasure of working alongside some of your specialists in that area, as I did a Keisha on the job with the graffiti busters, and I got to see firsthand how the difference it makes in the community to remove some of those items. So I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for answering your questions. I see a question from my colleague, so I'll ask Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor, Madam Chair. Thank you, Spencer, for that. As someone who grew up in hip hop culture, I actually have a different take on graffiti. Graffiti has been incorporated into the culture of hip hop in general. And I hear the difference. I would offer for us to think if we had public areas or dedicated spaces where folks could go display their art, maybe the negative, like we could move away from it being in just undesignated areas. But as general, like a lot of the folks, I know a lot of people view graffiti the same way that I do because we grew up in that culture. So we don't, I would say that some of them don't see it as an act of vandalism, but an expression of art. And so I think like in the long term, I would like to see us find areas where maybe it's like an opportunity for folks to have a place where they could go display their artistic skills that wouldn't put it on like private property or anything like that. And maybe that could be like a balance, right? Where we can get it out of the general public where people don't want to see it, but people have still had an outlet, right? Because I think that's what it is. It's like we got to find outlets for people to express their creativity where it's not taken as like a form of vandalism. But overall on the enforcement code, I did have one question, like if you could elaborate a little bit on, there was a section in the enforcement code on section D on consecutive citations. Can you explain a little bit to the public how that will work and what area is that intended to address?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, absolutely. So consecutive citations are the ability for us to issue citations repeatedly while a violation is it still exists. Within the city code, we do have the ability to cite for every day a violation exists. However, our normal process is to issue a citation and wait for that to be adjudicated before issuing a new citation. In the last few years in particular, we have been looking at areas where we have owners who are flagrantly, maintaining a violation. And in some of those cases, it can be a health and safety hazard, and in some cases even deadly, especially in the areas of cooling. We have our cooling ordinance where landlords are required to provide cooling down to 82 degrees if they have an air conditioning system, or 86 degrees if it's a swamp cooler. And in most cases, our landlords in Phoenix are very, very good. We do get a number of cases, 100+ cases reported to us over the summer, and 95% or more of those end with no citation issued because landlords are doing the right thing. But we do have some situations where they are not. And in those cases, we need to make sure that they understand the seriousness of the reality that their tenants are living in day to day. And so in some cases, we have one right now where we have a code enforcement case, and it's actually someone who works in air conditioning, who owns a property, and that air conditioning is not working on that property. And the landlord has failed to act. They give excuses, but it's been more than a week where that violation has existed. Now, we can do some things. We have some portable air conditioning units that we deploy to give some immediate relief to those tenants in those situations, but it's the landlord's responsibility to solve that issue. So in this case, we've issued more than 10 citations daily in order to get their attention.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, that Yes, it's like a very critical issue, especially here in Phoenix, right? Like as we see temperatures rising. Is there, I know that Arizona is like one of the states that is not strong on tenants protections, right? That include and expand to heat. Like what other measures do residents have? Like they contact your office, we have our staff go out and issue those citations. What is the next step in that process? Like, is there any other, support that residents can, or like how does it escalate if the landlord still refuses to address the issue?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, absolutely. In fact, even before contacting us, we encourage folks to reach out to our Human Services Department's landlord-tenant counselors, where they'll get information about the Arizona Residential Landlord-Tenant Act and what their rights are as tenants. And they do have rights. You're right. Here in Arizona, the laws tend to favor the landlords, but there are responsibilities that those landlords have, and there are opportunities that tenants have in order to help protect their own rights and to get either payment for issues that the landlord's not properly addressing, or the ability to break their lease, different things like that. And that's on top of then the warm transfer that our landlord-tenant counselors do to get folks over to us so that we can go out and conduct inspections. And I want to note that it's not just related to cooling. It's also about making sure that they have the appropriate appliances, that they have well-running plumbing systems, electrical systems, that it's generally free of hazards. We look at all of those things if there is a potential violation. We also continue to work with our Human Services Department on any need that there may be if someone does need to get relocated. So if we do have someone who needs to break their lease and may need some assistance with, first and last month rent or some moving costs, they can do that through some limited grant funds that they oversee as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And then my next question is just more in general. Would you know off the top of offhand, or if it's something that needs follow up, what areas have we seen the highest violations in based on our enforcement code? And like what have been the results from those?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, in general, when we look at more broadly our entire code enforcement program, certainly the highest issue that we see is weeds and dead vegetation and trash, litter, and debris. Okay. Those are by far our most common violations. But we do have a list of our top 8 violations on our website. Okay. They're also codified in our code enforcement policy under Section 3C3, which has the full list of those.
Okay, and I think our website now is pretty user-friendly. So I think if folks want to go to the City of Phoenix website and then just go to neighborhood services, right, to that page, that's where they would be displayed, the top 8.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And I guess like if that's one of the highest ones, what sort of education measures do we take to provide education first versus citation?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, we embed education in everything we do, and that starts with our neighborhood specialists who are out there working directly with neighborhood leaders and community members on revitalization efforts in their community. And that's completely separate from our code enforcement process. But when we do start with code enforcement, and this is reflected in this code enforcement policy, we also lead with education. Typically, we start with what's called a pre-notification letter, and that just lets folks know that we've received a complaint and that we'll be out to inspect in a little over 10 days. And that's, again, to give them an opportunity to address things. I will say right now, my weeds are a little high. And so if someone were to report me, I would get that letter that would say, hey, you have weeds, you need to take care of it, and I would get it done before someone came out to inspect. And if that happens, we come out, we look at it, there's no violation, we close that case and it's done. If there is still a violation, if the weeds are still long, we would document that and we would send them a notice of ordinance violation. And that lets them know that there was a violation, that we did identify that, and we would give them a certain amount of time to bring it into compliance. That's also codified in our code enforcement policy on page 2 with timelines for NOV compliance. And so that we would give them some time to correct that and give them an opportunity to contact us with any questions about the code, what it means, what compliance looks like, or any other questions that they may have. If they need additional assistance, we can offer that too. So we have some funds, some grant funds that we set aside for hardship assistance. So if we have a more substantive issue, large dead trees, roof issues, even sometimes fences that are in disrepair, we can address those using some grant funds to help them out if they qualify. We also have a good team of volunteers through our compliance assistance program, where if it doesn't rise to that level of funding needed, we can get some volunteers out there and help them address it through that means. And then finally, yes, we do all of that before we get to the citation stage. Again, depending on communication and what folks need, we can give them a little more time to come into compliance, all of those things before we get to an actual citation. And even right now, we see approximately 90% of our cases that are closed voluntary compliance.
Okay, thank you. I'm just thinking, like, when it comes to weeds and like things like that, it might be someone that's not able-bodied, right? And so hopefully we have ways to support them where they might just need an extra, literally just an extra hand to go take care of that. So I was just trying to understand that piece of it. So, okay, thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. That item was for consent. Do you have a question? Go ahead.
Regarding the graffiti on private property, if it continues to happen, I know you said we sometimes do it, we clean it up on private property if there's a waiver, but if it is a consistent problem, what is the steps or process then?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman O'Brien, so we do have our graffiti busters who can help, as you mentioned, maybe once, try to help eliminate it and try to encourage folks not to come back to that spot because it will be quickly removed. If it continues to be a problem and if the owner is not addressing that graffiti, it is also a violation. So it can go through the same code enforcement process that we run through on that path. The other thing that we look at when we're working with an owner who is engaged but is seeing repeated graffiti on their property, we can work with them on crime prevention through environmental design recommendations. A lot of times a simple design change, maybe adding some lighting to an area that's dark, or removing certain obstacles that prevent visibility, that makes it a convenient place to apply the graffiti. Sometimes that can help significantly with reducing the likelihood of a recurrence with that graffiti.
And do you, in conjunction with PD, track, you said you keep a database, I'm curious about how many incidences, and I don't need to know, I'm guessing you don't have it right in front of you, how many incidents happen annually, how often are we catching folks and following those prosecutions through to some kind of conviction, and if you have that information, I would love to see it in the future.
Sure, and Madam Chair, Councilwoman O'Brien, I can say, while I don't know exactly how many graffiti sites there are in any given year in our city, we remove approximately 40,000 a year. And we do collect that information. I know that the police department, due to staffing challenges, I don't think they have they're able to dedicate the same level of detectives that they have in the past towards addressing graffiti crimes. But I do know that they do have some successes with that, including the one that Jeannie Ann mentioned that was in the park. That's a great success.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. That item was for consent. I think we've answered all our questions. Thank you again to the director. We'll move on to, can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to item number 3, Head Start Birth to 5 monthly report for the month of March. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Moving on to item number 4, Phoenix Public Library Advisory Board recommended new name for Levine and Library in Levine. Any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just had a quick comment on this item. I know that we're going through renaming processes. Just want to again mention that I really hope we can come to a solution that does not diminish the powerful legacy and deep meaning that the library's name in this area has held for so many years. But I am looking forward to finding ways to ensure that we make sure that it doesn't lose its history of the farm workers movement and the Chicano and Chicana civil rights movement. So just excited to see how we roll this process out forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for that. If the survey results did indicate that there was a preference, and that was the prickly pear. More than 6,171 individuals participated in that process. So thank you for that. Moving on, the next item is item number 5. Our outstanding Phoenix youth leaders will provide an update from our director, Tim Valencia.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Mayor, and members of the subcommittee. Today, we're proud to highlight the Outstanding Phoenix Youth Leader of the Year Award program that has celebrated exceptional leaders for the last 40 years. And I must go ahead and start off that our very own Danielle right here was a former winner, so we're very proud of her. She was the face of our campaign, I would like to say, this year. This award honors high school students who demonstrate resilience, leadership, and deep commitment to community impact. This year's luncheon was at the Phoenix Country Club and was made possible through support with Phoenix Rotary 100 and Anytown, 2 longstanding partners who are dedicated to youth empowerment. Over 120 individuals attended the event, and these young people were absolutely amazing, and we have some in our audience that you got to meet a little earlier. Our 2026 winners represented 13 high schools and charter schools, reflecting 5 school districts across the city, showcasing again the incredible diversity and talent of our Phoenix youth. To be considered for this honor, students submit a personal statement reflecting their community involvement, their commitment to excellence, and their future goals. They also need to provide a letter of recommendation from someone who played a meaningful role in their lives. And one really good thing about this particular award, it's not based on their grade point average. Even though many of them do very well, it is not based on their GPA. This year, we had over 64 applicants apply. 28 finalists were actually interviewed from our partners, so representatives from Anytown, the City of Phoenix, as well as Rotary 100. From these interviews, the panel selected the council district winners, which some of them are here today. I know we have representation from District 1, 8, and 7 today, and our overall winner is here joining us. Each year, 2 students from each council district is selected. Each district winner receives a $1,000 scholarship in recognition of their achievement. From this group, 2 students are chosen as citywide winners, each receiving additional $2,000. I should say scholarship. All winners are featured in city publicity materials and are invited to participate in youth-focused programs and special appearances throughout the year, helping elevate youth voice across Phoenix. Today, they're going to participate in a focus group to get some ideas on the 25th anniversary of 9/11 to figure out how we could do some great service projects across the city. We are honored to introduce the 2026 Outstanding Phoenix Youth Leaders of the Year. We did that on May 1st at the Phoenix Country Club. Our first winner, who is here today, is Valeria Benzor, representing Council District 4 and attending Phoenix College Preparatory Academy. Her leadership has shaped by her experiences, specifically with housing instability. She advocated for herself around education and especially services for her family and even other Phoenix families and students. She believes leadership is rooted in resilience, courage, and impact, and she hopes to pursue immigration law to help families find stability, dignity, and hope. Our second winner, who was unable to make a day, is Timothy Stanley. He represents District 6. He's from Basis, Ahwatukee, and his journey has been defined by early health challenges, years of leadership in sports medicine, and a commitment to expand access to life-saving care across the community. He is working towards becoming a physician researcher dedicated to protecting underserved athletes and families through science, empathy, and community involvement. And I do have a couple of videos to show you guys to showcase the great work that they do in our community.
Hi, my name is Valeria Benzor. I'm a freshman at Phoenix College Preparatory Academy, and I'm the outstanding Phoenix Youth Leader for District 4. I would describe myself as ambitious, successful, and driven.
Valeria is a very motivated student. She actually started the Student Advisory Council in her 8th grade and has continued that journey here in leadership by joining the Community Awareness Club and student government.
I went to the Creighton Schools Governing Board to change policies on uniform for students that were having a hard time, especially for financial reasons, to provide uniform. I wrote a statement and I presented it to the Governing Board. I was also involved in Creighton Kids Congress, which was middle school representatives for every single school in Creighton.
You can count on Valeria being there, helping out, and really is eager to share her leadership experience and really do more than what is asked of her. She's truly an exceptional student.
I hope to inspire others by being there for others. I want to make sure that my community knows that I'm there for them, and my community is aware that there's somebody on campus who will listen to them and who will bring their voices to the table, no matter what it is. I'm most proud of my academics. I'm most proud of that. I advocated for myself to my principal, Ms. Thomas, to put me in classes that were more harder, and she put me in an English 11 class, and I was put into biology, and I'm starting chemistry next semester. So that is what I'm so proud of, that I'm able to advocate for myself.
She's very mature, obviously, for her age, and she knows what she's about, which is unique for a student that's just a 9th grader in school.
I want to go to Yale University for law school. For my bachelor's degree, I do want to get it in political science. At ASU, hopefully, I want to be an immigration lawyer. I want to practice law and help the immigrant community around me. I was given so much opportunity to be able to be here, to attend a school like this, to be able to apply to scholarships, to apply to awards, be able to have so much from sacrifices made for me. That's what gives me my drive every single day. That's what gets me up out of bed every morning. That is what makes me want to do more every day.
And here's our next winner, Timothy.
Hi, my name is Timothy Stanley. I'm a senior at Basic Sawatuki, and I'm the outstanding Phoenix Youth Leader for District 6. I would describe myself in 3 words as compassionate, collaborative, and driven.
Timothy's always reached for the stars and lands on the stars, and really has turned into just a brilliant student. I mean, he's truly one of the best students I've had.
I just really like challenging myself. And I think that a lot of the times there's so much potential that's untapped, and when I'm able to challenge myself with different initiatives I'm allowed to start or different classes I'm allowed to take, I get to learn a lot more and be able to contribute that knowledge to like a cycle of growth. There's a saying, it's the dedication and conviction to succeed can only come from within, and I think it really extends to all facets of my life. Throughout my whole life, I've been involved in soccer, and I would say that's really one of the first things that really drew me to leadership, but soccer is really somewhere where I found like the importance of resilience. At school, I was able to found my school's Key Club. We were also able to lead like these different drives, which culminated in thousands of dollars worth of school supplies and clothes and wellness packages for underserved youth and cancer patients. I've been involved at Honor Health for around 3 years now, mostly in the preoperative department. I'm the president and founder of our school sports medicine club. I've also been the only pre-medical cadet in the Phoenix Police Department.
He really truly leads by example. I think he's one of the best at doing that kind of thing. I think one of the things that maybe extends outside of his leadership is his empathy towards his fellow students. He just has an emotional maturity that I think is beyond the years of someone his age.
Be the change you hope to see, and don't let your age like define you, and just let your interests carry you forward with what you're able to contribute, because if you never begin something, then you never know like how far you can go. I hope to attend the University of Arizona as a Flynn Scholar. I'll be majoring in physiology and medical sciences with likely minors in public health and Spanish. So I hope to become an empathetic and inclusive physician who champions health equity and social justice.
And I do believe Timothy did get that Flynn Scholar. We didn't know about that until after the video. So thank you for joining us today, today's presentation and celebrating the incredible achievements of our youth, these young people behind me. We are honored to have several of our district winners behind us, as well as one of our overall winners. Their presence just remind us why this program matters and how powerful youth leadership and youth voice can be in shaping Phoenix future. So after here, we're gonna apologize. We're gonna walk out and do our little focus group and glean some ideas from them and see where we move forward. So thank you for having us, and please give them one more round of applause.
Just wanted to congratulate all of the year's outstanding youth, Phoenix youth leaders. Your stories have been highlighted, especially those highlighted in this presentation are powerful reminders that our young people are already leading, serving, and creating change in our community. What stood out the most to me was the fact that both of the leaders talked about their drive. And I think that is why you all are here, because of your drive and your commitment to service to others, whether or not that's advocating for others, promoting equity, mentoring young students, or simply creating more safer and inclusive places. You, our young leaders, represent the very best of Phoenix. I just wanted to again acknowledge each and every one of you. Incredibly proud of your leadership and your commitment to serving others. I want to again thank the Youth and Education Office and all of the sponsors and educators who continue to invest in creating opportunities that uplift and empower our youth. Our youth are the architects of tomorrow's world. They carry the ideas, courage, and innovation that will define the next chapter of society. So congratulations again to each and every one of you, and thank you again to our Office of Youth and Education for all that you do.
Ma'am. Thank you. I have comments. Oh. Thank you so much. First of all, again, congratulations to all of you. I remember, and it still occurs today, where often older people lament about how at risk our future is because of the young people and them being unhappy about what young people are or aren't doing. And I am happy to say that based on what you all are doing, I am sure that our future will be fabulous. And thank you for all that you are doing and all that you will continue to do as leaders, hopefully in this community or whatever community you land in. I can tell you that I'm looking very much forward to working with you all on the 9/11 project. I'm very thankful to the mayor for her selecting me to lead that project and look forward to taking your ideas and implementing some of them. So thank you for your continued work.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hernandez and then Councilwoman Starks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, I want to just echo everything that has been said. Like, y'all are our future, right? Y'all are our future leaders that are going to guide this city forward. This is probably one of my favorite events to attend when I get to go to the luncheon and see all the amazing, people that were selected across the city. And so, I'm also looking forward to just how can we support you more, the continuation of the city, just being a partner in this program. I think this is one of the best things that we can do for have this program for our youth. And I like to see the amazing leaders that are coming out of this, especially in District 7. Obviously, I'm going to be biased, but y'all are really amazing. You make me feel like I didn't do enough when I was in high school. So thank you for that. I'm like, now I got to play catch up. But really, y'all are amazing. Thank you so much just for pouring so much back into your community, proactively, and for all the things that you want to do. Y'all are just amazing. So thank you so much just for being involved and showing the community how much love you have for them. Thank you.
Councilman Stark.
Thank you. This is the first year I think I missed the banquet. I'm sorry I couldn't attend, but I've been going for 10 years, and we certainly have had a slew of talent from all of our high schools. And you guys are just another great example of what makes our city so great. I hope you have a great future. Hopefully one of you might want to get into government, right? Everyone's shaking their head no. Okay.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. No, I really am impressed. And again, good luck in your future. Really, it makes me proud to say that I represent Phoenix when I look at all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Again, congratulations. I'm so proud to see each and every one of you continue to shine. I look forward to seeing the great ideas that come out of the focus group. Myself, I have a District 8 Youth Advisory Council, and I was thoroughly impressed with the ideas that our young individuals, our young leaders, our emerging leaders came up with. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about how you guys see your place here in Phoenix and how we can partner together to make that better. So thank you so much again for coming out, and thank you again to our director, Tim Valencia, for your great presentation. You had an easy subject.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee.
All right. Next item will be an update on, we will have the Mental Health Matters, the second annual Mental Health Awareness Month summary. Good morning, Director Edwards. I love the green.
Yes, must represent Mental Health Awareness Month. So thank you so much, Chair and members of the subcommittee. I am excited to share with you today information on the city's second annual Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental Health Awareness Month takes place each year in May. It was first recognized nationwide in 1949, and in 2025 is when the city adopted it. The purpose is twofold. First, to increase awareness about mental health and its impacts on a person's health and well-being. And secondly, to provide mental health resources to support individuals, families, and the community. The reason it is so important to bring awareness to mental health and to provide resources to support those who may be struggling is because the impacts are far-reaching throughout the United States and here in the city of Phoenix. Specifically, 20% or 1 in 5 adults in the United States experience mental illness each year. According to the Maricopa County Community Health Needs Assessment, 1 in 3 Phoenix residents report depression as the most significant health issue impacting them, and 55% of Phoenix residents surveyed said they have difficulty accessing mental health care in our community. This is why it is critical to share with our residents information and resources regarding mental health and wellness. To briefly recap Mental Health Awareness Month in 2025, first off, there was such great support from Mayor and Council to kick off the first year, including a proclamation and Council sharing the information in their community newsletters. Additionally, we lit City Hall green for the first time and held Aware Green Day. To support the community's efforts, we hosted a calendar of mental health and wellness events from community-based organizations. In addition, we launched a social media campaign that was rooted in our slogan of Mental Health Matters. And the key event of last year was the Mental Health City Departments. To build upon the success of our first year, the team put together an incredible lineup of activities for the city's 2026 Mental Health Awareness Campaign. Once again, we lit City Hall green, and we came together earlier this month for Wear Green Day on May 6th. Each day throughout this month, on HSD's social media pages, we are posting mental health facts to inform the community of information they may not be aware of. Earlier this month, we hosted our second annual Mental Health and Wellness Community Resource Fair, and this year it was at the Helen Drake Senior Center. We more than doubled our number of partners present with 45 external agencies and 7 city departments and programs present. There was another great turnout from the community with valuable resources being distributed. Once again, City Department collaborations have been critical to make this month successful. Some of the highlights include Public Works posting the Mental Health Matters logos on solid waste trucks. Several city libraries have Mental Health Matters book displays, and this includes a book display at Burton Bar. The Office of Public Health created a mental health brochure, and both the Office of Public Health and the Police Department sponsored trainings, Safe Talk, and Question, Persuade, and Refer, or QPR. And the Human Resources Department organized staffed webinars. City partnerships with community-based organizations also is what makes this month successful. These agencies listed here participated in the Mental Health and Wellness Community Resource Fair, sharing their subject matter expertise with our residents. Additionally, Solari hosted Social Media Day to discuss services and collaboration, along with making social media content with the city to feature their services, including 211 and 988. An expansion from what was done last year included mental health education for the community. On May 20th, there was a community webinar specifically focused on teen suicide prevention, with the training being completed by Teen Lifeline. Mental health is not just for teens and adults, though, which is why city staff are providing Head Start parents with mental health-focused trainings this month as well. Finally, our new mental health and wellness brochure shares information on how to break the stigma, provides national and local resources, as well as Phoenix Public Library e-resources and book suggestions. Educating and supporting our staff is also a focus of this year's campaign. That includes a display in the atrium, which is Take What You Need. Examples of this table display are, life is tough, but so are you. And every day may not be good, but there's something good in every day. There's also a gratitude wall for employees to fill out what they are grateful for on mental health awareness ribbons. Furthermore, in partnering with the Office of Public Health and police on suicide prevention trainings, I am pleased to say that all of the Human Services Department will have received this training in the month of May. All month long, there have been webinars specifically for staff, including ones hosted by Human Resources through ComPsych and Blue Cross Blue Shield, as well as other trainings hosted by Teen Lifeline. These continue to be well attended by staff across many city departments. Another fantastic first for this year's campaign is a teen art contest. There were 64 total submissions from our city's incredible teen artists. And this was the most submissions we've ever received for any teen art contest for any of our strategic initiatives. The art was judged by the Phoenix Center for the Arts, Teen Lifeline, and City of Phoenix Arts and Culture. I would like to highlight the first, second, and third place winners. Gabriella from Wilson College Prep won her submission with Smiles Are Not Always Real. Aaliyah from Desert Foothills won second place with Ascend. The third place award was given to Eritrika from Basis Phoenix with her submission, Key Hope. All of the submissions plus honorable mentions can be seen in the City Hall's atrium through the end of this month. For more information, please visit phoenix.gov/mental health matters. Vice Mayor and council members, I greatly appreciate the time to highlight this year's campaign.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you and your staff for continuing to expand on this important work. mental health is not always as obvious as physical health deficiencies. So I wanted to start off by saying I really appreciated the highlight. I like the fact that we grew and we built on other of 2025 successes, and we expanded our partnerships in 2026. The teen art did leave me a little speechless. The first place winner, I think it encapsulates the complexity of what mental health looks like. So I wanted to start off by saying thank you for a job well done on this. I do have a couple of questions, if I may. One of your slide number 3 specifically talked about some of the actual statistics that we see here in our community, specific to Phoenix. 1 in 3 residents report depression as a most significant health issue they're dealing with, and then 55% of our residents have difficulty accessing medical health care. That is, in my opinion, that is a dangerous combination. Are there any other opportunities to expand mental health awareness efforts year-round instead of just concentrating on primarily in May, because the need doesn't disappear on May 30th?
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, yes, there is. You're exactly right. It is not just the month of May that we should be paying attention to mental health and well-being. And just like all of our strategic initiatives in the city, we do ensure that the promotion of these really important matters are done all throughout the year. So there will be, we have our website that is up that has the resources. Through social media, we will continue to promote the important facts and connections to verified resources that we have in the community. And there's other really strategic times throughout the year to bring attention to mental health and well-being, including Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And making sure, just like we did in this year's campaign, to provide educational opportunities to our community, how we can share this information, like our brochure, at community events and with individuals, families, parents, teens, and all of our residents.
Thank you for that. You may want to reiterate the website that is available.
It is phoenix.gov/mental health matters.
Thank you for that. My second question would be, I really was impressed to see the level of partnerships and collaboration between the departments and other community resources. Could you share any feedback that you received from residents and community partners about which of these outreach efforts or training they found to be the most impactful?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee. From the staff focus, feedback that we've received is that Safe Talk that has city staff trained and involves other community members as well. That was hosted by the office or done in partnership with the Office of Public Health, that has really been enlightening for them in whatever role, not just being a frontline caseworker, but folks that also play a behind the scenes role to understand what could be happening with our residents, whether it's individuals who are serving or maybe even experiences that they've had in their own life. At our community resource fair, we had a success story of someone coming in and having a number of different barriers, both in mental health, but also that coupled with facing an eviction and landlord issues. And we were able to quickly connect with services to help hopefully bring them some stability, both in their home residence, but also stability in their mental perspective and how to deal with these crises.
Thank you for that, because I do think it's important to highlight that this month was more than just about wearing green. It was about the actual impact that we were able to make in our community. So I'm very happy to hear that we have some stories of impact, and it just highlights the need. The need is there. So I just wanted to say that. And then my last question for you would be, I guess my question goes more to to slide number 10. And because we focused a lot on the teen art, because we do see that teenagers tend to sometimes don't deal with this the way as a mature adult would do this. But can you speak about like some of the teen lifeline training and the partnership with Phoenix Union and how we are helping young individuals identify warning signs and connect peers to support resources?
Chair, members of the subcommittee. Yes, Teen Lifeline was a critical partner, and we partner with them on a number of different initiatives. So Teen Lifeline provided both trainings to the community as well as trainings to our own city staff. And it ranged from just understanding and recognizing mental health issues and how teens may approach this and recognizing what they're saying and, more importantly, what they're not saying. In addition, it ran all the way to if a teen is presenting suicidal ideation, what can be done and what resources that there are in the community to connect the parents as well as the teens with those resources.
Thank you. I was grateful to see the expansion of this type of training and youth engagement efforts, because I do believe that these proactive investments can truly save lives. We know that residents are navigating stress, trauma, isolation, grief, and hardship, and efforts like this help remind people that they are not alone and there is support that's available. So again, thank you to everyone involved in advancing this important work through our city. Councilwoman Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you so much for this update. I think this is a very important thing for us as a city to just recognize May, right, as Mental Health Awareness Month, and really highlight what services that are available in the city throughout the year. Because I agree with our Vice Mayor that this is something that's needed throughout the year. And she actually kind of took my question on the teen life. Thank you. No, but I wanted to highlight that specifically because I know in the budget hearings that I attended, right, we had parents come and advocate that they wanted to see more support for our scholars and our teens in high schools, or specifically around mental health support. So that was something that was prevalent in the budget hearings that I attended. So it's just, I think it's really important for the community to know that Teen Life is out there. I believe in their partnership with PXU, they also film videos where students were selected to film the videos. So it's like their peers. And I only kind of happen to know that because my niece was one of the ones that filmed the video with Teen Life. And so then they shared it with, it was available for so it's a peer-to-peer thing, which I think sometimes makes it easier maybe for our teens. But yeah, I was gonna have a question on just the impact of the partnership. So thank you to the Vice Mayor and thank you for elaborating it. I do have, I see the metrics that 1 in 3 of our residents are, dealing with depression, and then 55% have difficulties in accessing resources. So I kind of want to ask a question specifically around access. Like, what ways can residents, or let me backtrack. Do we as a city what do we have in place to be able to help residents with access to mental health support?
Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, thank you for that question. So on our Mental Health Matters website, we do have verified resources for folks to take a look at and see what is out there in the community. Although we are not a direct service provider of mental health in the city, depending on what issues may be presenting and what programs someone may already be connected with, there are direct services. So of course, our community assistance program is there in times of crisis. In our Head Start program, we do have a really full array of mental health services that are available to our children as well as our parents. If someone is a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, whatnot, we do have very limited services that we're able to connect with therapeutic services. So there are, as I said, there are very specific things in which we are able to connect our residents with services, and our focus through the Mental Health Matters campaign is making sure that the nonprofits and other agencies throughout our community are known to our residents. I think the first stop shop that I would always recommend is contacting Solari. So that's 211 and secondarily 988, and that's for suicide prevention. And they can connect residents too with additional resources that may be right in their neighborhood.
Okay, thank you for that, because I think that's one of the things that I really just I have a lot of concern around. Is like, I think one of the biggest barriers to access is the financial piece, right? Like, people are losing their healthcare access, which they are now no longer have that support to be able to tap into some of the services out there. And then on top of that, sometimes mental health care is pretty expensive or pricey. And so I also think from the financial side, the affordability piece, right? Because that's top of mind in the time when we have residents struggling to just pay rent and the survival basics. This is a critical need, and so just trying to understand that and see where we can point them, like where can we pivot them so that they can access the resources. So good to hear that we have partnerships with the organizations out there that hopefully can provide these services to our residents. One of the things around this topic that I've just kind of has sat with me recently, because just some of the headlines or some of the things that I've seen happen in the news. Is there any focus on like maternal mental health?
Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, that's a great question. In this specific campaign, we did not focus specifically on that. The pivot for this year was really thinking about what our families and our teens would need. But there are mental health campaigns to focus on and information to focus on, whether it's maternal health, older adults, and other specialized populations and needs. And I think those are things that we can continue to explore, again, not just for a specific month, but how we get that information out to all of our residents based on their individualized needs.
Okay, thank you. And I think as I think through us preparing for next year's event, right, because I would assume that we're probably going to have a resource for next year. I think it would be great to make sure we incorporate some of the vendors to be focused. Hopefully there's an opportunity to bring in some partners that focus specifically on like the maternal mental health piece of it. And that way our residents that are attending, right, the event can connect with those organizations. So just thank you so much for the continued work that you really do on this topic. This is something that is very important to me. I think the first step is that we are showing that we can destigmatize mental health. And I think that really encourages our residents to, if we as leaders are openly talking about and making a very intentional step to destigmatize mental health issues, hopefully that brings our residents to feel like, hey, I can talk about this and I can go out and ask for support. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you so much, Director Edwards. I don't see any further questions. Again, I just want to reiterate my gratitude for you, to you and your department for the work that you've done regarding bringing light to this topic. Thank you so much. Next up, we will have item number 7, Project Assist Update.
All right, good morning once again. Today, alongside Deputy Human Services Director Francisco Blanco, we will be sharing information regarding Project Assist and how we support our residents with this service. The Project Assist program update will include a program overview, information on the household served, and how residents can access services. So what is Project Assist? This is a service to help income-qualified households who may be experiencing crisis, such as a financial hardship, support to pay their combined city bill for water, sewer, and trash. Project Assist would not be possible without the collaboration between the Water Services Department, the Public Works Department, and the Human Services Department. The Water Services Department provides $800,000, and the Public Works Department provides $200,000 annually in funding for this program. Starting in fiscal year 27, the Public Works Department will provide an additional $200,000. Thus, beginning on July 1st of 2026, there will be a total of $1.2 million in Project Assist to support residents. The Human Services Department is who residents submit applications to, the entity which determines eligibility for this service, and ultimately who is responsible for managing the $1.2 million in direct services. There are 5 criteria households must meet to be considered eligible for Project Assist. They must be a City of Phoenix resident and receive a city services bill, which must be in arrears. The household income must be at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. For example, for a family of 4, this means the household cannot make any greater than $66,000 per year. Additionally, the household could not have received this service in the prior 12 months. I will now pass it to Deputy Director Francisco Blanco, who leads HSD's Community Services and Initiatives Division, to share information on households served and how to access this service.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and members of the subcommittee. This slide shows the number of households and household members served over the past 3 years. As you can see, the Project Assist program served more households and more individuals in fiscal year 2025 than in the previous year. The fiscal year 2026 figures reflect year-to-date as of April 30th, 2026, and we anticipate serving a similar number of households by the end of this fiscal year. This heat map shows utilization rates based on council districts, with the areas of higher utilization in dark blue. Per the information gathered from this heat map, residents in council districts 7 and 8 utilized the services most last fiscal year, which is also consistent with current trends for this fiscal year. This slide shows the amount expended over the past 3 years along with the median payment. As you can see, the program fully expended its allocated funds in fiscal year 2024, and in fiscal year 2025, the program slightly exceeded its budget. To cover the overage, the program utilized $83,652 in rollover funds from previous years, which had accumulated in years when expending ARPA funds was prioritized. For this current fiscal year, we anticipate expending the full allocation once again. I would like to highlight the trend of median payments. The median payment increased from $400 in fiscal year 2024 to $809 in fiscal year 2025. While the year-to-date numbers as of April 30th, 2026 show a slight decrease this year, we expect this number to rise by the end of the year. This is consistent with seasonal patterns, as the summer months typically bring higher water usage and, as a result, an increased need for financial assistance. If residents have any questions regarding the water services or solid waste services, they may contact the Water Services or Public Works departments. Both departments are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Contact information for both departments is listed on this slide. To apply for Project Assist services, residents may call or apply online by selecting the option for water assistance, or they can also visit a family services center. Services are available in English, Spanish, and other languages as needed, and centers are geographically dispersed across 3 locations throughout the city.
Any Phoenix resident is able to support Project Assist by donating funds to such a great program. They can do this by logging into their City Services e-portal account. This QR code is the quick way to make a donation. For more information on Project Assist or other HSD financial crisis assistance programs, a resident can either go to phoenix.gov/crisis assistance or phoenix.gov/helping, which is the city's one-stop website for all services that support Phoenix families. Thank you, Chair and members of the subcommittee, for your time. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Programs like Project Assist are critical. They help provide access to water, sanitation, and essential city services, which directly impacts a family's health, stability, and quality of life. I really appreciate the collaboration between the departments to help our residents who may be experiencing temporary financial hardship remain connected to these critical services. We know that families are still facing affordability challenges, and programs like this can make the difference between stability and crisis for residents trying to make ends meet. I really appreciate the city's focus on prevention and early intervention, helping residents before balances become unimaginable, benefits both family and the community as a whole. Thank you again to staff for continuing this important work and for approaching the conversations with compassion and dignity. I do have one kind of overarching question. How are residents currently learning about Project Assist, and are there additional outreach strategies being considered to ensure that eligible families are aware of the programs before they fall too far behind on payments?
Yes, Vice Mayor and members of the subcommittee, we do regularly attend outreach activities and market the programs where we share information with the community directly. We also do share information through social media, and our information is available at our website and also on the Helping Families website.
Okay, so thank you. And then my second question is, are there any identified barriers that residents experience when applying for this assistance? Or are there any opportunities for us to simplify the process further?
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, there's always opportunities for improvement. We know that we get a significant number of calls into our family services centers for all of our financial assistance programs. And we have been working diligently on trying to make it easier for our residents to be able to access those services. So that includes information on FAQs if they're calling in to understand what the requirements for the program are. Also, making sure that the website and accessing the application online. We are also taking a look at our hours of operations at our family service centers. So this way, no matter what a barrier could be for an individual or family member, a household will be able to get the information that they need to be able to apply. Now, with all of this said, I do want to make sure everyone is aware that the need in our community outweighs the funds that we have in all of our programs. So it is a focus on who we can serve with the highest priority, and taking a look at what we can do to streamline that as well.
Thank you for that. Councilwoman O'Brien?
Thank you so much. Clearly we've spent the full amount last year and the year before. You said we were going to spend our allocation this year. But you stated in previous years there were some fund balances left over. Have we utilized all those fund balances, or is there still a surplus somewhere?
Chair, Councilwoman O'Brien, there is still a surplus, and we are taking a look at making sure that those funds get out into the community as quickly as possible, because we know that need is greater than what we do have. And as Francisco did share, where that surplus came from was when there were other funds available, both funds that the city had, but there were also pandemic-related funds specifically for water services that the state administered.
And what is the amount of that additional?
Excuse me?
The amount that's available that's additional?
We will, I don't have that number offhand, but we can follow up and let you know exactly what that is.
Okay, that would be wonderful. Sorry, where to go next? Vice Mayor was asking about how do we get this information out? I just want to clarify, is that information available on the water bill?
Yes, it is. It is available on the water bill.
And as well in past due notices?
I am sorry, Chair, Councilwoman O'Brien. I'm not sure, but we do have Brandy here from the Water Services Department, and she could speak to what is listed on those bills.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandy.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. For your first question, the remaining balance that's carried over is about $400,000.
Wonderful, thank you.
And then as far as what's on the bill, it does have a small blurb on there that says if you need assistance, here's where you go to get it. As well as if you want to donate, there's a blurb on there that allows you to donate when you see your bill.
And when you get a past due notice, is that information available in the past due notice that there's assistance available?
Yes, it's on every single bill that you get, regardless of if it's current or past due.
Okay, that is very helpful. Thank you very much for that. One of the criteria is for you to be in arrears. How far in arrears before we would consider helping somebody, or before somebody could reach out?
Immediately. So they just have to have just some past due.
Some arrears. So if I'm 1 month behind, then that would be an acceptable time to apply. I don't have to, okay. And then the donate here, I'd like to know about, is that considered, or could it be considered a tax credit? Because there's a difference between a tax credit and a tax deduction. Does anybody know? And if you don't, I'm happy to get the answer later.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Yes, it can be considered a tax donation.
A tax
write-off, yeah.
A tax deduction, but there's a difference between a tax deduction and a tax credit. Do we have anybody in the room that knows? Okay, could you get back to the committee on that? Because
it's
that
a
is
deduction.
Huh?
It's a deduction.
Just a deduction, not a tax credit.
Correct.
Then I would ask that we look to see if there is some way to make that program qualify for the tax credit, because there is a significant difference in that, in a tax credit and a tax donation. And also would love to hear, in maybe our next briefing, more thoughts on how do we increase exposure to this program. There's a lot done in the first few months or at the end of the year about programs people can donate to help out their community. And I think this is a good one that would like to see elevated, and would be happy to help in that. Also, do we know how many families, I guess, because you said we do it based on how much in need they are? How many families do we turn away? Do you have any idea? Or how are we unable to help in a year?
Chair, Councilwoman O'Brien, members of the subcommittee, we do not have a number of how many households we're not able to help who contact us and aren't able to get through. We are taking a look at that, but when we have a specific number of appointments that are available. That's how the system is currently set up, and then we process those funds. We do not accept applications currently from households if there's not funding available.
Okay, so it's more about if I get an appointment and I meet the criteria, then I'm going to get assistance.
That is
If
correct.
I don't get an appointment, okay, that helps me understand that better. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for this presentation. And just a quick comment, Councilwoman O'Brien, I don't know if city level we would be able to set tax credits. I think those are set by the federal and the state governments. But yeah.
I hear you. I just think we should pursue it if we could.
Thank you so much for the presentation, because I think some of our residents might not know that these services are available when they're just needing some extra help. And it looks like, just looking at the trending rate and where we're at fiscal year 2026 year to date, I'm assuming, and I don't know if this trend indicates that the increase, that we are going to see increase this year from last year in residents that are reaching out for assistance in this program, because we're already at, over 4,800 household members served. So I don't know. I'm just wondering, do you see the same thing where we're seeing increases and more people reaching out?
Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, what we see for households is that the average number of individuals in a household has continually risen over the last several years. As Francisco shared within the presentation, we expect to serve a similar number of households as we did last year.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I know you spoke about the outreach piece, so that covered one of the questions I had. And then, on the eligibility, if someone reaches out and they meet everything, but then you get to the last bullet point that you highlighted, which is, they haven't received the services in the last 12 months, where can we pivot, or where can we connect the residents for maybe an outside partner to help with that? Because a lot of folks that are struggling, it's not going to be a one-time thing, right? They're going to probably need help a few times in the year, unfortunately. So, where can we connect them to?
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, Councilwoman Hernandez. Yes, when we do see that somebody needs help more than once a year, that's an indicator that they do have additional need. So we at that point will offer them case management services. We will try to connect them with other resources that we have relationships with throughout the city, but we really try to also work with the individual to make some goals, whether it might be financial management or applications for other sorts of services. We do try to still work with that family to see how we can best meet their needs.
Okay, thank you so much. That's great to hear, because I think that's where they might just not know, right, they can get help in another piece that would help kind of balance things out. And then just my last question, will any of the flexible financial funds be used to help with this program as well in next fiscal year?
Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, members of the subcommittee. So with the one-time flexible financial assistance, how that program is working for the crisis assistance, it will first be a credit to their electric utility bill. If they don't have an electric utility bill, we will take a look to see if they have a water services bill that we can put funds towards. And then the other one would be if they have rent, and then to pay that credit towards their property manager or landlord. And for the stability assistance, we will take a look at that, their entire situation, to see what type of services and funds should help them retain stability, both in their household, but also in their living situation overall. So it could potentially go towards their water bill.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for highlighting how residents can apply for the services, because I think that's really important, just to reiterate to the community, hey, this is, if you're in need of support, this is where you can go. And Brandy, thanks for sharing that it's on the water bills, that on all of them. So thank you so much. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I just have a couple clarifying questions just to make sure I understood some of the testimony that was given. With respect to the appointment necessary to qualify for Project Assist, is that an in-person interview? Appointment, sorry.
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, it can be in person or it can be basically telephone or virtual. It's kind of at the applicant's preference.
Okay, thank you. That was hopefully the answer I would receive. And then with respect to a comment you made, Director Edwards, regarding the need outweighs the available resources, how are we planning on tracking that? Because I think it's helpful for us to understand, or do we track it currently? Do we know that it's, for example, the need is like 20% more than we currently allocate? Do we have any baseline as to what that need currently looks like?
Chair, members of the subcommittee, there's a couple of different ways in which we could track moving forward. One, we are in the process of getting a new case management system and updating our process for how we collect applications for households. And so then we'll have a better understanding of the need, even when we're not able to meet that. And I would say the other piece of it is really what the water services and public works through that billing process is, how many people are in arrears. We may not know what percentage of the federal poverty line that they are at, but we can make some calculations based on what we know is in our community in general, and have a number there as well.
Okay, my second question was actually kind of pivoted pretty well, was regarding the federal poverty income level. The standard that we set at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. Is that by statute, or is that a policy that the city itself just determined?
That, Chair, members of the subcommittee, that's a policy that the department has set for households. It is in alignment with a number of our other financial assistance programs, and based on what we see for need in our community, and taking a look at kind of the whole spectrum of who we've served in the past, because it has gone up to 400% of the federal poverty line previously, but the majority of callers and residents that needed our services were at or below 200% of the federal poverty line.
Okay, and I know there's sometimes a conversation about, like, sometimes a disconnect between the average median income versus the federal poverty level, and I didn't know if that was something that was a consideration, or since this policy is set by the department, to ensure that we are truly getting those individuals who might be right on the cusp, and this is in line with Councilwoman Hernandez's question regarding flexible financial assistance. Like, is this something that would put them further behind the 8 ball? Are we able to eliminate that stress for them or help with that accommodation? So I was just curious.
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, I think that's a great thing for us to take a look at when we've set, not specifically, we have not done that, at least in my tenure with the city, in regards to Project Assist, but we have done that in other programs, and I would bring up eviction legal services. So that's set by AMI, 80% of the area median income, which is, if I recall, maybe about $14,000 more per year, for around $80,000 for a family of four, rather than the 66 for 200% of FPL. What we've seen in that program as well, though, is that for those households, the average income per year is $18,000. So even when we extend that, the majority of the households that we are focused on serving are those who are less than the median income and are households with the lowest incomes.
Okay. And then my last question, I won't be a pop quiz, but if you don't know, we can definitely, you can definitely provide the information supplementally. Do we have an idea of the percentage of the households in the city of Phoenix that are at or below 200% of the federal poverty level, income level?
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, thank you for saying this is not a pop quiz, because offhand I do not know. I should know that offhand, but I can follow up with you.
Yeah, I think it'll be helpful for us to know, like,
sure.
how many households are we really talking throughout the city? And I think that's probably our first step in understanding, at least for me, in understanding whether or not Project Assist, the policy portion of it, may need some whether or not revisions are appropriate. So thank you again. Thank you for the presentation. I really wanted to get this on the subcommittee agenda because I wanted to ensure that our residents knew that this was an option. It was in, as we talked, for example, about the solid waste increases and water rate increases, we also wanted to make sure that our community knew about these resources in the event they actually needed it. So I wanted to say thank you for a great presentation. Thank you, Francisco, for joining us, and Brandy as well. Thank you, Director Edwards. Seeing no further questions, we're going to move on to item number 8, which is a report on the overview of the homelessness data assessment and the strategies being used to address people with high acuity who are experiencing homelessness. And as the team join us, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Hodge Washington and members of the subcommittee. I'm pleased to be here today with Deputy Director Scott Hall and Special Projects Administrator Margaret Adams to talk a little bit about the realities of one of the most complex issues in our community, homelessness, specifically working with people who have extremely high needs and may be in unsheltered situations. We understand that there is often frustration with the community when there is visible unsheltered homelessness and an impression that the city is not doing enough. We want to talk a little about people with very high needs and what those needs are, and how we at OHS are working with people in the field and some barriers that we are encountering when working with this population. In our presentation today, we'll start by defining some key terms, provide a data overview, including PIT count and outreach data. We'll spend some time talking about actual clients we have worked with recently and the very complicated paths that they have taken. We'll talk at length about the tools OHS has at our fingertips, including outreach, shelter, and housing. And we'll finish with a discussion of the barriers and gaps in our system that we need to solve for.
Thank you, Rachel. So when we're talking about high acuity homelessness among sheltered people, we're referring to people who have complex, severe, and urgent health issues, behavioral or social needs that require intensive support to achieve housing stability. Acuity are really the indicators, and these may include physical, mental, and behavioral health needs, length of time a person experiences homelessness, substance use, or other factors that may result in people who may be resistant to connecting to services. High acuity individuals have multiple indicators that may require intensive and sustained support to achieve housing stability. And we often, these folks often fall under the sort of federal criteria of chronic homelessness, meaning that they have a disabling condition and have been homeless continuously for 12 months or have experienced 4 or more episodes of homelessness totaling 12 months in the past 3 years. These characteristics do not define these individuals, but rather these are indicators of the services that people need to address the current situation. People who are identified as high acuity often have multiple needs, and these may include chronic medical illnesses, acute medical conditions, or other diseases that may be untreated due to a lack of access to care. People may also have difficulty accessing the services that they need. For example, we often encounter people who are not able to make it to appointments, obtain mainstream supports that may be available to them, or access other services that they may benefit from. They may struggle to complete tasks, and these may be compounded by living in an unsheltered situation. They may need the type of navigation and supportive services offered by OHS and our partners to help connect them to the care that they need. Physical and mental health care is often not utilized by high acuity individuals. People may have multiple physical and mental health needs that are untreated. When compounded with substance use, it can be challenging for people to engage in services, and it may increase their use of emergency, crisis, or homeless response systems. And finally, folks may have chronic, untreated medical and mental health conditions that worsen without stable housing, creating a cycle of deteriorating health and safety, resulting in potential risk of harm.
Thank you, Margaret. And what is the scope and scale we're dealing with when we're talking about our unsheltered population? So here are 3 of our primary outreach programs that we have with the City of Phoenix. And just for context, these are unduplicated numbers for each project, but they could be duplicated between projects. But as you can see, the first one, we have our Phoenix Cares outreach data, where the outreach teams engaged with over 2,900 individuals. And our behavioral health engagement team engaged with just over 2,300 individuals. And our OHS outreach teams engaged with almost 1,400 individuals in 2025. And over to the right, you can see the most recent point in time count in 2026. As you can see, our unsheltered population at that snapshot was 3,093, which was about 500 less than the year prior. The reason we bring up this data set is our unsheltered population is predominantly high acuity with multiple needs that would need to be addressed. So what's the reality of with the individuals we're working with? The truth is, people's lives are complicated. And when you mix physical health challenges, mental health conditions, and substance use issues, things get even more complex. A lot of folks we serve are dealing with all 3 at once. If we try tackling these issues one by one, it can actually create more problems. So we try to address everything together when we can. On top of that, many people are stuck waiting, sometimes for months or years, for things like Social Security disability or housing vouchers. During that time, they often feel stuck in the crisis system with no real progress. And when those things don't come through, it's incredibly frustrating for the individuals we serve and can mean they miss out on other opportunities. Employment is another big challenge. Some people don't want to look for work because they're worried it might hurt their chances of getting Social Security disability or that housing voucher. Others have physical health issues that make working tough or just not possible. All these factors make serving our high acuity population really challenging, but understanding these barriers helps us support people in a more realistic and compassionate way. So when we look at this slide, it's the ideal path we would hope for someone who is experiencing homelessness. It's clean, it's linear, and honestly, it makes perfect sense. The logic is simple. You experience homelessness, talk to an outreach team, connect you to heat relief or shelter where we complete a housing assessment and move you into housing. But the reality is that people's lives are incredibly complicated. When you're working with individuals with a lot of needs, it's rarely this simple. And for individuals with high acuity, this linear path on this slide is just a myth. The reality is a more complex and nuanced path that must be created for every individual we serve. To give you a clearer picture of what these systematic breakdowns actually look like and how we have to adapt to be truly effective, I want to share a few real-life stories over the next few slides. So here we have Betsy, who's in her 60s. Has a long history in homelessness, first entering the system back in 2013 with alcohol and substance use issues. Frequently stayed unsheltered around the Human Services campus and demonstrated recurrent violations in shelter that included intoxication, substance use, aggressive behavior, and frequent medical calls happened while in services. Betsy is an example of someone who has spent years in shelter and accessing services. Betsy's first touch in the homeless service response system was 2013 with multiple entries at CAS. Her path then leads to overflow shelter utilization. Next, she is moving between multiple stays in various shelters between 2014 and 2018. The arrows reflect movement across shelters over a period of years, including UMOM's Holly Center. After leaving shelter, we can see a connection with outreach services between 2018 and 2019, resulting in a connection to permanent housing. Once in housing, we see she has exited for lease violations and returns to overflow shelter. Then again, connecting with outreach, and then to the SOS and other various shelters. During these shelter stays, it was discovered that she was residing in a group home all along while continuing to leave her housing situation and returning to the shelter system repeatedly. Betsy's story highlights the need to coordinate with other systems of care so that we can understand our systems of care that are outside of our homeless service response system, and to understand the resources available to help staff rapidly reconnect to housing and supports. High acuity individuals may often cycle in and out of shelters and treatment facilities, and Betsy's compounding issues, including substance use, impact her ability to remain housed. And here we have Susan's path. Susan's a mother, was a wife, and a sister whose life was dramatically reshaped by the onset of severe mental health challenges. Susan had been married and raising 2 young boys. As her mental health declined, she became increasingly unstable and at times abusive toward her children. The family unit eventually fractured under the weight of these struggles. Divorce followed, along with the loss of her home, and she was left with only a single suitcase of items. With limited support and worsening symptoms, Susan moved to another state to live with her sister, but that arrangement was short-lived. Ultimately, she boarded a bus alone and made her way to Phoenix. Susan first entered the homeless services system in 2016 through the outreach program. Between 2016 and 2024, Susan experiences unsheltered homelessness. She connects to outreach teams while living unsheltered. She engages with the behavioral health system and has multiple arrests. We see that Susan is cycling between connections from outreach teams, jail stays, and behavioral health engagements over this period. While unsheltered, she connects with outreach again and again, and is offered actually a referral to the Safe Outdoor Space. The Safe Outdoor Space team worked to support her, recognizing that many of her behaviors stemmed directly from her untreated mental health conditions. They focused on helping her maintain just enough stability to remain safely sheltered. From the SOS, Susan was reconnected to the behavioral system over and over again. Despite these efforts, Susan's conditions continued to deteriorate until a formal petition for involuntary treatment became necessary. Since entering inpatient care, the hope has been that with consistent treatment, she will regain stability, respond well with her medications, and ultimately receive the support of a legal guardian who can help safeguard her well-being going forward. And here we have Bob and Jill's path. Bob and Jill have had a long, complex history with the homeless services system, beginning with their first entry in 2015. Over the course of multiple placements, Bob has experienced repeated exits from shelter, often related to escalating behavioral issues closely tied to his ongoing and significant mental health needs. Bob's behavioral challenges appear to be consistent and long-standing and are likely symptomatic of mental health conditions rather than intentional misconduct. In 2015, Bob and Jill connected with our outreach teams. From outreach, they received housing placement. They re-entered the homeless service system in 2022, And we see multiple exits from shelter due to violations of program guidelines. Throughout multiple placements, including Washington Shelter, Rio Fresco Shelter, Saguaro Shelter, and Mercy House, Bob's difficulty regulating behavior may have been intensified by environmental stressors, instability, and cumulative trauma from repeated negative exits from shelter. In 2024, we placed him at the Safe Outdoor Space. At the Safe Outdoor Space, we tried a different, more trauma-responsive approach, avoiding immediate exits for behavioral expressions connected to the mental health symptoms. The strategy created a more stable environment and allowed trust building between staff and the household. Over 7 months, the team secured a mainstream benefits and ultimately attained a continuing care voucher for Bob and Jill. Since housing placement, wraparound supports have been provided to meet the basic needs, reinforce income stability, and maintain connection to community resources. An approach aligned with trauma-informed principles of safety, empowerment, and collaboration.
Scott just talked about 3 people who we have worked with over the last few years that have had their unique challenges. Each of them had a different path to where they are today, but the constant among them was the OHS staff that was there along their paths, helping them with resources that we have available to us. So I want to provide a brief overview of the resources and interventions OHS has at its fingertips. First, outreach. Oftentimes, the first step in helping someone access resources to help them end their homelessness is an outreach team, and Phoenix funds the vast majority of outreach in our region. We have 3 unique outreach programs. First, our Phoenix Cares outreach program, which provides outreach to encampments when we receive reports from the community. This response is a 7-day-a-week response, and CBI's outreach teams go and assess each encampment report, and then the many city departments who are involved in the CARES process then respond to ensure the resources have been offered to each individual, property is addressed, and the encampment is cleaned. Second, our behavioral health engagement teams, which started as a pilot in the Levine area to help individuals whose primary barrier was substance use. These teams are trained to help people access a host of treatment and other behavioral health resources. And finally, our homelessness liaisons, which all of you are aware of, who proactively work with individuals in hotspot areas in each one of your council districts. And additionally, we have teams that are assigned to parks, alleys, and rights of way to work with people in those high need areas as well. We have spent a large amount of resources as a city improving and increasing the number of places people can go in our community to safely access indoor resources. In total, we've completed 10 shelter projects in the last 4 years, with 2 additional projects in the works. First, our very lowest barrier indoor resource is heat relief. Our extended hour sites are intended to get people into a safe environment in the summer, while also offering as little or as much support an individual or family is looking for. Next, our Safe Outdoor Space, which is an outdoor shelter that can serve up to 300 people per night. The goal of this space is to be an alternative to indoor shelter and help people who are staying there transition into a more traditional shelter space or directly into housing. We have maintained a roughly 33% positive exit rate since opening that space in 2023. In addition to the Safe Outdoor Space, we have 2 city-owned indoor shelters. The Washington Shelter, which opened in 2022 and serves 200 people per day, and the Phoenix Navigation Center, which provides 280 beds in a mixture of congregate and non-congregate units. We also fund in full or in part, many nonprofit-owned shelters, including the 117-unit Rio Fresco Healing Center, a fully non-congregate site, the 100-bed North Mountain Healing Center, 600 beds at Cass, and 170 cots at the St. Vincent de Paul Dining Room on the Key campus. In total, the city owns or has access to 1,767 beds or safe outdoor spaces for adults needing resources. And in addition to that, our contractual partnership with UMOM and CPLC allows us access to family shelter resources as well. And the last intervention I'll discuss is housing. As I've stated many times before, housing ends homelessness, and OHS is in the process of growing the housing resources we have available to us, and that is a big part of our strategic plan. First, I want to talk about prevention. If we can help keep people safe in housing as much as possible, we'll have fewer people seeking the resources such as outreach and shelter. We are partnering with our Human Services Department in this intervention and using their expertise in this area to target people most at risk of homelessness. Rapid Exit is a new program as a result of our strategic plan, and this program helps us identify people in shelter who need a relatively light touch to get them rehoused. This may be a deposit or some help with rental arrears, but it helps people exit out of homelessness quickly and thereby allowing us to reutilize those shelter beds. Rapid Rehousing is a program that helps subsidize an individual or family's housing costs for up to 2 years. This short-term rental assistance program helps people work towards self-sufficiency with this time-limited subsidy. And finally, development. OHS is happy to be midway through the construction on our first housing development, La Perla, which is expected to open early in 2027 and will have 126 homes and on-site support services to seniors exiting homelessness. And we're preparing to launch our master lease program, where OHS will have a master lease on multiple housing units and be able to sublease those units to individuals who may not be able to receive a rental unit on their own. This model allows OHS to provide the appropriate level of on-site support services for each resident.
So Rachel just described the interventions that we have readily available to us in OHS, and now we'll take a moment to talk about the gaps in our system. These are areas that OHS may not have direct access to or we have limited access to. While urgent psychiatric care and detox services for substance use are generally accessible, barriers remain for individuals who have or who need long-term or residential mental health and substance use treatment. These challenges can be compounded by the lack of sustainable housing options, or by complex regulatory and organizational coordination issues. Together, these barriers can create bottlenecks in crisis response systems and reduce our ability to stabilize the individuals that we're serving. Navigating long-term or residential behavioral health services can be very challenging. OHS continually seeks to establish partnerships that more seamlessly connect people to the care that they need. And while we work with a number of organizations to provide on-site access or on-site services to people using our shelters, we continue to work on improving access to mental health and substance use treatment to ensure that individuals can receive the care that they need. Scott discussed earlier the need to establish interventions that work well for people. By developing programming across a continuum of services, we can more readily meet people where they are and again connect them to services. The Safe Outdoor Space is an example of an intermediate intervention that has been successful as a first step in getting high acuity individuals connected to care. OHS is working to develop cross-sector partnerships to close service gaps for high acuity individuals. And system accountability is core to our strategic plan, including activities like performance evaluation, improved coordination of services and care, outreach, and education. Housing is a huge gap in the repertoire of services that we can offer, and we as a city are working on this collectively. We see a noticeable lack of sustainable housing options for people with severe mental health issues, which causes capacity issues in our shelter and other crisis settings. So Rachel spoke earlier about the housing options that OHS has at our fingertips, and permanent supportive housing was not one of them. People with high acuity are frequently needing permanent supportive housing services or needing supportive services when they enter into housing, and we simply do not have enough of this intervention in our community. We really need to continue to advocate at the federal level for this resource. We also have a lack of housing vouchers in general in our community, and we know that many of you are advocating for our fair share of this at the federal level. Lastly, we are in need of additional affordable housing development in general. The city has been making many strides in this arena, most prominently with the creation of and the expansion of the Housing Trust Fund. We are creating shelter and housing solutions for high needs individuals that can address these complex conditions and reduce people cycling through emergency and homeless response systems. We're also looking at cross-system care coordination. Creating functional and sustainable referral tools is essential for us to improve care and placement coordination. We are in pilot and development phases with Arizona State University and Grand Canyon University to develop shelter dashboards and referral tools to assist outreach teams in reducing the time it takes to connect an individual to the services that they are requesting. We need nimble and responsive tools to ensure that when a high acuity individual is accepting services, our teams are able to connect them quickly and provide a warm handoff to shelter or treatment services. By creating a dashboard of shelter availability for our outreach teams and partners, the goal is to reduce the length of time for referrals to shelters and to streamline the process for people trying to access services. Coordination is also a key strategy for OHS. We have an opportunity to strengthen access and connection to substance use and mental health treatment within our homeless response. Our goals are to better connect to existing resources and create new cross-system partnerships and improve accountability across our systems of care. This includes expanding access to shelter, housing, and employment programs. Staffing continues to be an area where additional resources are needed. The work that we do is incredibly hard, and the staff that do this work are incredibly talented and passionate. One area where resources could be added is for comprehensive training for consistent approaches across providers and for city staff. Providing a level of consistency among staff only provides better outcomes for individuals in our programs. Strengthening our workforce through training opportunities will only improve the services that we deliver. One of our strategic plan goals is to improve shelter quality and outcomes, and this means improving the quality and performance of our shelters by creating more pathways for people to exit to housing and maintaining low barriers to entry, having the capacity to serve high needs populations. We need staff to help us improve outcomes and placements from shelter, allowing us to serve more unsheltered people in the community by increasing our capacity at the same time and utilizing our beds more effectively. And finally, provider capacity. Our providers in this community are stretched very thin. This is a 24/7 operation, and providers need resources to help sustain them. They need financial resources to pay competitive wages for their staff to limit turnover, and they need training capacity. We plan to regularly reissue our request for qualified vendors in an effort to expand the pool of high-quality partners that we can work with to ensure that we maintain the capacity needed to deliver high-quality services and improve our outcomes.
We thank you so much for your time today as we provided you a high-level overview of this incredibly complex topic, walked you through some real-life examples of people we've recently worked with, and talked about how OHS is currently able to respond to community need while also highlighting areas of opportunity in the homeless service system. We appreciate your continued support of OHS, and we will open it up to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I will start off with Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. I'm trying to, and thank you for everything you guys do. You do a good job. I appreciate it. I'm trying to better understand how you interact with private entities like the House of Refuge, for example. They have a very robust program in Sunny Slope, and they do deal with addiction. And as you know, they have several houses throughout Sunny Slope. Is there a way that you have like a list of these private nonprofits that you can connect with and help, or how do you work with those organizations? I'm trying to better understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee. It is complicated, but how we do that is, one, we work with a network of amazing providers who continue to update those kind of lists. Take, for example, Community Bridges. They're one of the largest behavioral health providers in the state. And what they do is, once they receive an organization that provides a certain service, what they do is go out and inspect or meet with them to make sure it is of quality that we could refer people into those type of projects. So through our outsourced providers, they keep their own list, but internally, we also do the same thing. We accumulate our list of places for substance use treatment, outpatient services, housing, temporary funds, whatever it might be, and accumulate those lists as well.
And just as a follow-up, so do you ever have like a joint meeting with various nonprofits to talk about how you work together? I'm curious. I know that when Healthy Giving started, many different organizations would meet on a pretty routine basis to make sure that all the bases were covered. So I'm curious, do we do that?
Yeah, Vice Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, members of the subcommittee. That is something we want to continue to improve on. But yes, we have, like you bring up a great example with the Healthy Giving Council. We've created opportunities for people that were providing some services out in the community to then come into our shelters and provide those in a more sustainable, ongoing way, serving our high acuity population that's within our shelters. But we do, when we were working on addressing the issue around the Herman Service Campus with that very large encampment, we had a large stakeholder meeting where we had all providers coming in and seeing how we could all work together. But that's something we want to continue with our new strategies to address homelessness plan, is improving those relationships, more ongoing meetings, and also, as Margaret mentioned, the application with ASU and GCU, which would be better connection for halfway houses, sober livings, and treatment centers as well to improve that connection.
Thank you. I do want to say that I think we try our best here at the City of Phoenix. I wish we had more regional support from some of the other cities. But I also think it's not just a local issue, it really is a national issue. And I really would like to see Congress try to address the issue, especially with funding and help for mental health. It really needs to come from the top down. I think we do a lot, but we really need to have a better national dialogue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. First, I completely agree that the biggest pathway to solving homelessness is through housing. I think I've said that I don't even know how many times in the last few years. And I actually also agree that this is a regional issue where we are not seeing the same level of solutions coming forward from not just surrounding cities, but even at the county level, especially at the state level and the federal level, right? Not everyone is doing their part to really tackle this issue. I personally really appreciate how we are talking about this, right? That we are talking that there are gaps in the system, right? Which for me, that shows that this is a policy failure. It is not a failure on one individual. It is policies or choices that have been made that really have impacted and compounded this problem, right? I think on those lines, one of the things I learned when I was at the state legislature is that in the previous, under the Ducey administration and the Republican-controlled legislature, there was continued over a span of 8 years, funding to behavioral health services were cut year after year at the state level, and now here we are. And I don't think a lot of folks understand that and the impact that those decisions make. So I would encourage our partners down the street to go back and look and see how they can be good partners as we tackle this at a regional level, because Phoenix alone cannot solve this problem because it is affecting everybody. So I just want to really make that clear. And I kind of wanted just a clarifying question, and I think, Scott, you touched on this a little bit about the areas outside of city operations and supporting homelessness services. Can you just explain that a little bit more? What are those gaps? I know you talked a little bit about the gaps there, but what else can you share about those pieces?
Yeah, Vice Mayor, Councilman Hernandez, members of the subcommittee. Yeah, it is a complex conversation, to say the least. And we'll probably repeat that over and over again through this, and we don't have the answers for everything. But as I spoke to, in some of those cases, we had an individual who was actively in a group home. We didn't know that, and yet we're cycling the person through shelter, unsheltered homelessness until we identified that, and now our job is to continue to reconnect to that. A lot of things aren't in our control, such as inpatient substance use treatment or inpatient mental health services. We're part of the real kind of the crisis homeless service system. Shelter is an emergency response. It's not the final response. And that's why we also have created a diversity of shelter to congregate, non-congregate, different locations throughout the city, different resources. We need to continue to build upon that because what's happened to our shelter system is they become impromptu mental health systems, impromptu substance abuse systems when they were supposed to be housing emergency systems. So continuing to work with Access, the state and our federal partners to continue to improve that access would be a game changer for this system. And as you alluded to with the funding, you could look at the data over the last 2 decades and see where money went away and data changed. You can see in the PIC count data how shelter numbers dropped drastically. That wasn't because people didn't want to provide shelter, the money went away for shelter. So what the city's done in the last 4 years with your leadership has really started to stabilize just some of that emergency part of the system. And now we're really working on fine-tuning the things that we best can to better access to access programs, better access to treatment, better access to workforce, housing. Because once you exit out of mental health services, substance use services, shelter services, the exit needs to be to housing. Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna find someone that disagrees. I'm not gonna disagree with you, right? Like, the goal needs to be to get someone into housing, and what that housing looks like is going to be varied, right? Like, we are going to need, just what you have all shared and what we've heard multiple times, in different updates from you all is the lack of permanent supportive housing. And because we don't have enough of that, it really just continues, right? I think I really appreciate, I just want to highlight the cross-system care coordination. That is a piece that I think I've had multiple conversations with different people in and out of the city about how it is so hard to provide, for me, one of the passion projects that I have is how do we expand right here in Arizona is dual diagnosis, right? For folks that are struggling with mental health issues and substance use to really identify what is the root cause and how do we really get folks on a stable path. But ultimately it is, the exit has to be housing and whatever that looks like. So I think, us focusing on that is very important. So I appreciate that that's part of the plan. When we're talking about those permanent housing solutions, we are all advocating for more housing choice vouchers because we need that. Like, the city of Phoenix we do not get our share for the population that we have. And so that's going to be something that I know we are all continuously advocating with our federal partners. I talk about it all the time, on affordable housing development. I think this is why it's so important for, again, our partners down the street. We need them to authorize the statewide low-income housing tax credit so that these affordable housing developments can be built. Because part of it is that if those projects don't pencil out, we're not going to get the units we need, the options we need for housing, right? And part of that is also, I think, one of the things that I always talk about, how do we as a city also make it easier to build these affordable housing projects? So I appreciate all the work that we as a city are doing to really focus. How do we make it easier to do our part? But again, we need the surrounding cities, we need our partners around us to also do their part. So I really wanted to just highlight that piece that ultimately it is housing at the end of it. So thank you for that. And then I just want to talk a little bit more about those partnerships with some of our nonprofit partners. Sometimes they have those relationships with folks that are struggling with high acuity, that are also facing homelessness. How do we, I guess, it goes a little bit into what Councilwoman Stark's question was, it's how are we really working? Because a lot of times folks that are liaisons, right, and our staff and our outreach teams are having contact with, they just don't trust city folks, right, for whatever reasons, or they just don't trust anyone. So it's part of it is taking the time to build those relationships, build that trust, hey, these are people that are truly trying to help, and I can take them up on the offer of this. How do we expand, or how do we work with those outside partners to make sure that we are very intentionally building those relationships of trust with the residents so they take us up on getting the help, right, to get them on a path of stability?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Vice Mayor and members of the subcommittee, Councilwoman Hernandez, that is definitely something that we're working on in OHS because yes, we've got some amazing outreach workers, liaisons who have peer training. So that's been a huge success, and we have a lot of people who really connect with them, but not everyone does. So we have to have partners to be able to offer additional trust relationships. So one of the things I'm excited about is we recently, several months ago, started coordinated outreach with Circle the City. So our outreach teams are working hand in hand with Circle the City around the campus so that if maybe someone isn't interested in talking to one of our OHS staff, they might have that relationship with that Circle the City staff. Another similar program we have is with our behavioral health engagement teams, which is a funded contract with CBI. And those outreach teams are specifically trained in behavioral health and connecting folks to treatment and other programs that the OHS might not have direct access to. And we're looking on building those partnerships. We actually have a meeting tomorrow with our federally qualified healthcare centers where we're going to talk a little bit about our goal in coordinated outreach with those groups as well. So definitely something that we can expand on in OHS.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that because I think that's really going to be a piece of it, right? They are filling a gap that we also face. Like we're all facing a lot of the gaps, and so everybody has a piece to play in this. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important to find ways how we can strengthen those relationships as opposed to kind of pushing those partners out to not want to work with us. So I really appreciate that. And I think those were my main points. Or, sorry, and one clarifying question. I know this department started in 2022?
Correct.
Right? Prior to that, I guess, can you share a little bit about, was there focus on really, what did the support look like to help folks with high acuity needs?
Sure. Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, Councilwoman Hernandez. So prior to 2022, there was a division within the Human Services Department, the Homeless Services Division, and that division really was had a lot of good relationships with nonprofits and funded a lot of good things, such as outreach, shelter, rapid rehousing programs. And that was really the main focus. Was we did have a small outreach team, some caseworkers that were based in Sunny Slope, but really the focus was providing funding to nonprofits to do that work.
Okay, thank you. And I echo, I think what the Vice Mayor said is that sometimes there's this perception that OHS is not doing anything or the City of Phoenix is not doing anything around this. Like we are, and we have been, and we have started a lot of really good steps to really combat this very complex issue. And what I really want the community to understand is this is a problem that didn't happen overnight, and the solutions are also not going to happen overnight because, as we just heard throughout this presentation, every situation is different. It is a very complex problem that a lot of our residents are facing, and that's going to require a multitude of solutions to really address the need that exists. So thank you, right, for everything that you are all doing to really do your part to really combat this very complex issue. And again, I'm going to continue to support and work with the Office of Homeless Solutions. How do we really get to the root of the issue? And that means supporting a lot of other things that are out of your control, like housing, right? So I'm going to go advocate for more light tech programs so we can build more affordable housing, so more permanent supportive housing can be built. And at the same time, right, but we also have to have a level of service that we have to deliver to, and how we really build those relationships with the other partners on the outside and with the residents especially. So thank you so much for everything that you are doing. And I'm going to continue to encourage our surrounding partners to also do their part to tackle this very complex regional issue. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Councilmember Bryan.
Thank you so much. Relative to our point in time count, we count the SOS as beds and shelter, but they do not. Can you just help to explain that?
Sure, Councilwoman O'Brien. HUD does not recognize the 201 individuals who were sleeping outside at the safe outdoor space as sheltered in the count. So when Maricopa Association of Governments submits that information to HUD as they're required to, those 201 individuals who were in tents that night will be counted as unsheltered. However, Maricopa Association of Governments, or MAG, they visually demonstrate it as a separate, so they, on their, and maybe we could go back to the slide that shows the pit count, but they, all of the visualizations show the number of people who are in a sheltered situation, number of people in an unsheltered situation, and then count those people who were in the safe outdoor space that night separately. We, as the Office of Homeless Solutions, strongly believe that we in the Office of Homeless Solutions strongly believe that the safe outdoor space is a far safer space and has a whole host of services on site that people in true unsheltered situations do not have access to. Those being restrooms, showers, 3 meals a day, laundry, case management services, behavioral health services, workforce services. All of the things you would find in a typical indoor shelter are available at the safe outdoor space.
So not only are those folks being provided with all of those services that you just listed, but could you also just talk about what that means for the community, the surrounding community?
Sure, certainly. And then thank you for bringing up the slide. So
thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so the safe outdoor space clients on this are visually represented kind of a lighter yellow. So, but I will say too, to answer your following question, we have strong support from the surrounding community, from the safe outdoor space, business owners, our neighbors. Margaret actually staffs our community advisory committee that meets frequently to talk about issues. They are very strongly supportive of the safe outdoor space. They've seen an improvement since we opened it, certainly, and we opened it in 2023, right at the tail end of our efforts to help decommission the very large encampment outside of the campus. And it's just been a wonderful asset to have in our repertoire of shelters, and the community has supported that effort as well. And they have indicated their support of our moving forward with an additional 4 years at that space as well.
Well, that is excellent news, and thank you, Margaret, as well as Scott and Rachel for your, I almost called you Jacqueline because your nameplate still says Jacqueline. I'm like, that does not compute. Sorry, I just am like, it's not that I don't know your name, but I saw that and it threw me for a loop. So thank you all for your efforts and hard work. This is an incredibly difficult problem, and I really don't think that our everyday citizens understand the true magnitude of some of the needs of some folks out there. And so thank you for this presentation. Thank you, Chair, for bringing this, and I'm grateful again for all the work that you do. We still have a lot more to do, and look forward to continuing to work with you on it.
I want to echo all the sentiments that I've heard from my colleagues. I was actually trying to take off my questions as they were being asked. I intentionally allowed myself to go last on this one. But I want to start off by, again, thanking you guys for the work that you do that is always, and sometimes not always, shown. I know the work that your outreach teams does, the case managers, the behavioral health providers, the frontline workers, who do this difficult work day in and day out, and they do it with empathy and professionalism. And I just want to say thank you for allowing this process to work this way. I want to also say it was very important to identify. I thought it was helpful to have a definition of high acuity and help our community understand what that means. I think we continue to see homelessness, and there's a lot of what's the best word? There's a lot of assumptions of what it is that causes someone to be homeless. And I think, Scott, you did a phenomenal job of showing 3 individuals with different paths. And we saw they're not necessarily what you would think would be the motivators behind their work, behind their actions. Many of them, I just did a little bit of math. Some of their homelessness started in their late 40s, early 50s, and they just were never able to get back on track. And I can't imagine the stress that being unsheltered places on anyone's mental health, and it prohibits them from being able to fully embrace the process that's presented for them. And I think it was helpful to show that each person is a story. story. And although we want to have a standardized model, sometimes I think you said it best, we have to meet people where they're at, and we must have some level of flexibility in our process in order to do so. I will ask though, maybe it's helpful for organizations who are trying to get into this space to support us. What strategies have proven most effective in building trust and maintaining engagement with individuals who have repeatedly declined services or who struggle with long-term stabilization? Because I think, like you said, Rachel, we want to be able to find new partners, but I think it might be helpful for them to understand from our perspective what success looks like in that space.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, great question and great comments. Some of the things we've seen that have been highly effective in really gaining trust and getting better outcomes for those that people identified as either service resistant or unwilling to, has been one, peer support. Having people that have been there, done that, come through the other side, either through treatment, whatever supports, physical health, whatever it might be that they've overcome, and now they're out helping individuals. But one of the most effective ways to get people to engage is having the resources that you're offering real time. When we have this actual shelter bed to offer somebody when we're engaging with them, the acceptance rate drastically increases. When you have an outcome for somebody, hey, if you go to treatment, we have this location or potentially this housing subsidy to go with you, you get a better outcome. So having real-time resources to offer people when you're engaging with them drastically changes the outcome. But peer support is our foundation, and I kind of wanted to elaborate too on Rachel's comment. I can't thank enough the people who provide the service directly on a daily basis. Imagine showing up every single day and meeting people where they're at. Sometimes they're having a good day, a lot of times they're not having a good day, and you spend a lot of your day redirecting, engaging, encouraging, supporting, and you have your own life issues. You're just overcoming some of these issues yourself, and you're showing up every day dealing with this. So I really want to acknowledge frontline staff and the resources we need to get them, not only for that position they're at, maybe the entry level, but also a trajectory for career if they choose this type of hard work. And I think the city of Phoenix has really been a leader in that position, so I want to acknowledge that. And by creating those pathways, a large majority of our own team is people with lived experience, and we believe that's what has helped us get a lot of the positive outcome, because they're the ones out engaging with individuals, building that trust, and doing it repeatedly and consistently and compassionately.
Your comments touched on a couple of my other questions, so I will follow up with them unless, Rachel, you wanted to interject?
No, I just...
So the real-time support, I was going to ask, what is the ETA of the real-time referral tool? Because I do think it is very helpful to be able to identify the available resources in real time. And I think, I see some nodding, and I think that would be one of the ways that we can help instill trust, because if it's like, I have something for you right now, they're probably more likely to accept it than to say, hey, I don't have it, let me check and be back into an hour or 2 hours.
I'm going to let Margaret answer this question, but I just want to make sure we're clear. We actually are working on 2 different referral tools.
Yeah, there's a dashboard with ASU
yes.
and GCU.
Yes, and I'll have Margaret explain both of those and give you the ETAs.
So with our partnership with Arizona State University, they're working to develop an application for us that is going to be available. We are in the process of just starting the pilot in the next week or so, where we will be testing this in real time in some of our own projects. And then, you know, as we test that out and scale it. So that's sort of on the forefront. I'm actually going to let Scott talk about the project with GCU, because he's been working more closely with that.
Yeah, and our project with GCU, so one of the things we created here at the City of Phoenix was the Behavioral Health Engagement Team. That outreach team was specific to spend a portion of their actual work time building relationships with halfway houses, treatment centers, sober livings. So what we're working with GCU is we brought in some of those sober livings, treatment centers to create this application so that outreach teams aren't just offering the emergency shelter bed, but they're offering treatment right from the street while they're engaging. So that referral tool that GCU is working on will give them immediate access to know availability for any bed in a sober living treatment center or halfway house, so that we can immediately connect them to those resources.
That's excellent news. Do you have an ETA of when you anticipate that?
Yep. So the application has been developed. Now we're just putting the resources into the application, and then we'll start the pilot phase of putting it in our outreach team's hands.
That's great news. Thank you so much to hear that. Just going back a little bit to my, one of my, I guess, preliminary questions is on slide 5. I want to understand, are these individuals that were contacted, are these, what is the word? How much of these individuals are repeat individuals, or is it fair to say, for example, of the CBI CARES teams, 917 individuals, that is unique interactions?
Vice Mayor, yes. Within those 2,917 individuals, those are all unique individuals. And the behavioral health engagement teams, those 2,325 are all unique. And but there could be overlap between them, if that makes sense. So there is likely overlap between the two. But within each project, those are all unduplicated.
Okay. And it may be helpful for myself and others as we continue to talk about this and be able to help champion why this is so important. Is it possible to give us a percentage or an estimate of how many people we anticipate are in our shelter system that are high acuity, and the number of individuals or percentage of individuals that are unsheltered that likely fit this high acuity definition? I guess to help our partners understand the urgency of the issues.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I'm going to have Margaret answer that question because going back to the work that we did with Bloomberg, they hired a consultant, Clutch Consulting, who helped us analyze those the folks who are in our shelter system for 1 year. So Margaret has that answer.
So when we think about those long-term stayers, the Clutch system modeling gave us an estimate of about 1,500 people who were in our shelter systems, or single adults in our shelter system for a year or more. Many of those folks are what we would, sort of qualify as highly acute individuals. When we looked at that modeling, they identified that of those 1,500, about 73% of those folks they would recommend need permanent supportive housing as the intervention that would be best suited for those folks. Again, these are folks who are staying in our shelter system for a long period of time. So what we see is about 15 to 20% of the total number of people experiencing homelessness in our community are long stayers, highly acute, sort of what we would think about as chronically homeless. But they are the most visible. They stay the longest and they consume the most resources, right? Whether that's emergency services or shelter services, shelter bed nights, they're staying the longest, and therefore, we're kind of spending the most amount of resources on about 15 to 20% of the population.
Oh, and then just a follow-up, you said, I just want to make sure, when you say 1,500 in our shelter system, are you talking about our shelter system that consists of about 1,700 or 1,800 beds, depending on how you count it? Or how did you, because to me, 1,500 of 17 or 1,800 is a huge percentage.
That's a great clarification. So this took all shelters, not just City of Phoenix funded shelters. The Bloomberg and Clutch analyses looked at all shelters within the City of Phoenix over a year period. So when they looked at those data, it was, so it's a, I would have to get you the number of shelter beds that they looked at, but it was greater than the 17.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. So, but do we have an estimate or as to, for the unsheltered, like this was just looking at those that were in a sheltered environment. Do we have a projection or estimate as to how many individuals that are unsheltered that could qualify or be defined as high acuity?
Yeah, Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, I would say majority of folks that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness would fit the high acuity. Because usually when you're talking about your unsheltered population, I want to make a point with our unsheltered conversation as well, is a lot of times our unsheltered population fill up the narrative for homelessness, and that's not the case, right? That is a subset of people experiencing homelessness. We have thousands and thousands of people who come through the homeless services system every year that don't have the same issues as those that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So I just want to make sure that's clear. But with our unsheltered population, predominantly it is a substance use, usually a combination of mental health or physical health issues. So I would say majority of people who are unsheltered fit the high acuity narrative.
Thank you for that clarification, and thank you for the answer to that. I wanted to ask, going forward to the OHS outreach solution, that is slide 14. Rachel, during your comments, you talked about we provide the majority of the outreach in that region. Let me ask you this question about how many staff members or staff do we have when we say we're taking up the majority of this?
Vice Mayor and members of the subcommittee. So the OHS outreach team staff is about 16 individuals, but we also have numerous teams with CBI who is responsible for our CARES response, as well as the behavioral health engagement teams. And I don't have those numbers right off the top of my head.
That's fine, you can give it to me. I was gonna use this as an opportunity, and I'll still take it as an opportunity to encourage the other cities in the region to this is a team effort. This cannot be solved by one city. It is not created by one city. And I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to reemphasize the need for regional uniformity in this component. And it should just not be left to the city of Phoenix and our partners, but we should be dealing with this on a regional basis, on a more comprehensive basis, because that is the only way we're going to actually see meaningful solutions. My next question was regarding, it was on slide 19. Your presentation talked quite a bit about the shortage of permanent supportive housing as a major barrier. Can you share approximately how many PSH units currently exist in Phoenix and what you think the anticipated need truly is? Give us our marching orders and what we need to talk to our federal and state partners about.
Chair Hodge-Washington, members of the committee. We have, based on the housing inventory count from HUD, in 2024, there were about 4,800 permanent supportive housing units for singles in Maricopa County. So that covers sort of our entire county. And while we don't have, while I don't have, exactly like the number of PSH units that we need today, I think a lot of what we are working on in OHS is looking at those models that, again, using those data from Clutch, continuing to look at our homeless management information system data on a very regular basis. We're working very closely with MAG and the continuum of care on how best we can sort of have more ready access, that Phoenix can have more ready access to those data in real time. There are also projects underway like Dwell, which is a sort of a collaborative data warehouse that is looking at access data, our state Medicaid data, looking at homeless management information system data, not only for Maricopa County, but also statewide. So these are all, these are all ways in which we are trying to better establish and more targeted numbers. But I would just refer back to that, the system modeling data, which said about 75% of our long stayers are going to need that sort of higher level of care.
And I try not to do math in public, but 75% of about 1,500 individuals, is that correct? Okay. Like I said, I won't do the math in public, but that's at least, according to my calculator, it's about 1,100 additional units that are necessary. And I think it's a reason I was asking for the level of specificity is because the same way I continue to talk about our housing choice vouchers and the fact that we receive 1/3 of the vouchers of the 6th largest city when we're the 5th largest city, and that math does not equate. I wanted to be able to have a similar really quick reference points when I do talk to our federal and state partners to help them understand what is the goal that we are aiming for and how they can help us work towards that. So I'm grateful thank you for that. You've given me just enough information to be deadly, and then I'll send them your way to make any corrections. And then grateful to hear of the work, the impact that hopefully the Housing Trust Fund will be able to assist in some of the needs in addressing the issues that we're hearing today. The Housing Trust Fund, as you probably already know, is a priority of mine, and I'll continue to advocate for that because I truly believe that that is a needed tool in our arsenal and how we are going to address this. I wanted to spend a few minutes, not a few minutes, just one question, I shouldn't have said that. On other cities such as like Houston, they utilize a high acuity register to better coordinate care and prioritize these individuals. From your perspective, do we have a similar system in place, or are the discussions to implement that? I see you nodding, Scott, so I presume you're going to answer.
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee. Yes, but it's fragmented. So in the Medicaid system, they do have some focus on high utilizers through the Medicaid and crisis system. Within the homeless services system, it's more individualized. Like at each one of our shelters, we do case conferencing for the people staying there. And usually once a week, we talk about our high acuity individuals that are staying there while also addressing the needs of other folks. And that also brings up another point too with what our staff are having to deal with out there is when you're talking about someone who has high acuity issues or a lot of things that need to be overcome, it takes majority of the time of the staff that are working there, which then leaves people with less acuity, with less engagement with case management possibly and services. We try to overcome that on a daily basis, but we do focus on our high acuity through case conferencing per project.
If I could also add to that, we also have through our continuum of care what's called the coordinated entry system, which does sort of seeks to prioritize folks who might best need, or, might most need supportive housing or rapid rehousing and sort of triage folks through that system. I also want to just acknowledge, though, that with the portfolio of supportive housing in our community, those availabilities are very, very scarce. And so we have very limited turnover in those units. And so our ability to place high acuity people is challenging, to say the least.
Okay. And I think my last question is simply, given what we've been shared, the need or the importance of behavioral health services are being so critical to this population, are there any other additional opportunities to leverage access and regional behavioral health partnerships to improve coordination and the speed of service connection?
Vice Mayor, definitely, yes, there is additional need for service coordination. We are working closely with Access and their Medicaid waiver program, H2O, and we're very hopeful that which just began last year. So we are very hopeful, but there's definitely more coordination and partnership that is needed there.
Okay. Well, I just again want to close by saying I really appreciate all of the work that you guys do. I think the approaching homelessness with compassion, or those experiencing homelessness with compassion, coordination, and a focus on what I think are long-term solutions, not necessarily just trying to place someone to place it. I think this conversation continues to be very important because individuals experiencing high acuity often face the most complex barriers and require, as mentioned, the highest level of support and care coordination. We know there's no single solution to homelessness, particularly when behavioral health, chronic mental condition, trauma, substance abuse, and just life intersect. And that's why I really want to emphasize the need for strong partnerships and why they are so important. And I will begin I will close how I begun by again thanking the outreach teams, the case managers, the behavioral health providers, and the frontline workers who don't get to come into chambers and tell us about what it is that they do, but we know they're the ones doing the difficult work day in and day out. And I just want to say thank you to them. As a council, I think it's important that we continue to balance urgency with humanity while working towards solutions that improve outcomes, both for our vulnerable residents and for the broader community. So thank you again for this detailed presentation. And then my last item would be, is there any additional proposed topics? Sorry, public comment. Anyone? Nope, there's no one here for public comment. Anything else from the subcommittee? All right, we are adjourned.
Local stories, and updates that matter to you. Phoenix TV,